Hello. Welcome to 80 Days. This is a game by Inkle Games, and let's start with a prologue. This is London, 1872. I have entered into the service of a new gentleman. It would seem he is a gambling man. So, to give some context, hold on, I'm just going to make sure I'm audible on my thing. But to give some context, the last game I played was a game called Over the Alps. Yeah, I'm audible. And Over the Alps was very much in the similar vein as this. It has the director of that was the writer of this. Who is John Ingold. There's also another writer called Meg Jayanth, who is working on a bunch of other things. And so basically what I wanted to do with this stream, to give you some context before I get started, is that I really loved the storytelling in. I love the storytelling. I love the art of Across the Alps. And so what I wanted to do, but one issue that I did have was that I wasn't wild about some of the actual like game aspects of that game, where you had to like avoid the police, and that wasn't really well implemented. I feel like I know it's hard to do, but it's just like it was a great story that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to play a game that basically had the similar story and had like a kind of an interesting game around it. So I've chose 80 Days from 2014, and this is a game I have played before. I think I've played at least I've gone around the world at least once. So to give context, this is about Around the World in 80 Days, the Jules Verne novel, in which a stuffy English guy basically travels around the world, tries to get around in 80 days. And this game is basically the same as that, where you start off in London and your goal is to travel all the way across the world, buying train tickets and playing Passepartout, as you and your master try to get all the way back to England in less than 80 days in order to win the bet. And the game is really interesting in that, like, you were basically like ordering train tickets, you were deciding where to go. It's also got this really nice narrative aspect to it, which I really enjoy. Which is basically like there's so many different options, like all these other places we could go to. I said in my tweet that one of the things that you could go to New Orleans and meet death. And what I hope to do in this game is just go to places and explore the weird sort of stories that come up from being there. This is a game that bills itself as having like murders occurring and like robberies and all these kind of like fun events that you can do. So I'm really interested in that. And yeah, just playing this really interesting narrative game. It's also probably worth mentioning that this game is. Well, it is like a version of Around the World in 80 Days. It leans into some of the industrial fantasy aspect of it. Like there are mechanical men, and like one of the press images for this, one of the key images is like there is a mechanical camel that sort of exists, and I think like one of the key aspects of this game is like the balloon ride and that sort of thing. And I think it does a lot of wild things with that. So yeah, so I'm really interested about this game. This should be about 3 hours long. If it goes a little bit over, that's fine. But yeah, we're gonna go around the world in 80 days. I'm not sure how much I should lean into the challenge. Like there is like you get like bonuses if you get achievements if you arrive in in 80 days and in 60 days and in 40 days and so forth. I don't know if I should go for that or just kind of like enjoy the story. My inclination is to go for the latter, just to kind of enjoy it more. So that said, that little introduction being done, let's basically find out about our employer, who is a gambling man. London. My master returned home from the Reform Club with a strange gleam in his eye. "Passepartout," said he, "we are going around the world. Pack my hunting rifle and my evening jacket. There is not a moment to waste. You, Passepartout, now have funds." Another thing I wanted to point out is I recently played Resident Evil Village. I've finished that one. And the reason I played that game, I have a lot of issues with that game, but the reason I played it was I was very interested in the map. I like how they do maps in that game, and I was very interested in the inventory management. And this game has a lot of inventory management, and the main screen is basically a map. So I'm kind of curious about sort of playing through that and exploring that. Quickly, Passepartout. Collect our things and we'll be off. So let's pack. A thing I also like is that the every minute counts, so it'll always be ticking. So okay. So here's the fun thing. So basically, you get bonuses from having like all the things you need. And so you have to decide whether you want to carry. So there's basically, this is the game aspect of this game, where you have to decide whether you want to take the evening jacket and leave the European train table, or take all this stuff. Some of these items can be sold in different places. Like if I go to Thessaloniki, Paris, and Odessa, then I can sell the high caliber rifle and get some funds, which can allow me to buy future train tickets. And I can have the evening jacket. I cannot quite remember what the point of a Englishman's wardrobe set is. I think it's just keeping Phineas Fogg's mood good, so he's not upset with me. But like, I found in this game that like I don't really care about Fogg. Fogg is deeply annoying. So yeah, I'm gonna get rid of the evening jacket. I'm gonna take the European train timetable. Yeah. See? Timetables will be of great assistance when planning our route. Agreed. So that being said, let's go off. So we only have one choice now, but from here on out, it's going to be a bunch of branching paths because it's traveling. The Amphitrite Express to Paris. The guard's van has space for one suitcase, which will suffice, because like some of the trains will basically only have room for one suitcase or two suitcases. Some of them have 0 suitcases. And there's also the travel. Like the health in this game is just how happy Phineas Fogg is, which is pretty easy to manage, I found. Here we are, a mechanical horse, which is really cool. We leapt aboard the 825 from Charing Cross as the final whistle shrieked its warning. Our journey had begun. I am on fine form. We must make haste. Let's converse. Begin conversation. Greetings, Monsieur Verne. Ah, this is Jules Verne. Passepartout, did you say your name was? What a curious appellation. So you're talking with Jules Verne about like various places you can go to. Let's see. I want to go to Nice. The route from Paris to Nice's timetable. You mentioned trains. I've been told you can get to Ekaterinburg from Moscow aboard the Trans-Siberian Express, but the fare is prohibitive. Let's go Nice to Venice, because those sound like nice places. Is it possible to travel from Nice to Venice? Yes, you can travel from private car to Nice, from Nice to Venice, but the journey is a tiring one. I want to go to Zurich. Venice to Zurich. Is there a route from Venice to Zurich? Sorry, I have to run. Goodbye, Jules Verne. So if I didn't have the timetable, this would be my main way of finding out where to go. The Amphitrite Express rattled along the narrow gauge rails to Dover, where its fins extended and it plunged directly into the channel. This kind of shit is what I really love about this game. Monsieur Fogg made no remark as the dark water pressed against our windows. I thought it so marvellous at the time, but how many marvels was still to come? Extremely cool. We splashed up onto the rails at Calais and closed the remaining miles to Paris Gare du Nord quickly. According to today's paper, Monsieur Fogg remarked, the Orient Express now runs as far as Bucharest. Ow. Put my hand on my fan. Okay. The 45 caliber rifle could earn us well here. Great. Let's sell this goddamn rifle. Let's see where we're going. Can I see that? Where's the map? So I want to go to Nice. Is it Copenhagen? Because now you see, this will take an extra 2 days, which I might not have. As fun as it would be to go to... I want to go to Venice. I'll take that. Okay, we can discuss the price, but I want to explore... Let's explore Paris. Yep, gotcha. The Exposition Universelle sprawled over the grounds of the purpose-built Palais du Champ de Mars. Hot air balloons sailed gently across the sky, and the powdery light of the Yablokov candles gleamed invitingly. I was flooded with memories of the siege of Paris and my own small part in it. Cool. I suppressed my memories of the siege and visited the explosion. Or, the memories of the siege were too painful, and I stayed locked up in my room. Let's go with the siege of Paris. It was hard to believe that only a year ago I had been a blockade runner on the balloon post, a cook feeding starved citizens in the Latin Quarter, a uniformed soldier of the National Guard. I like the idea of being a blockade runner. We smuggled letters and communications over the Prussian forces by hot air balloon. Before my first run, an elderly artificer with a copper lily pin gleaming upon her collar had explained how to operate the burner valves and vents, and how to read the wind currents by spitting into the air. Cool. I had been fearful, so I'd listen closely to her instructions, or I'd mask my terror with arrogance, giving her a cocky grin. I'd been fearful. I listened closely to her instructions with my eyes wide and hands shaking. Alas, as an artificer, I cannot involve myself in matters of war, she said flatly, adjusting the tie of her copper lily pin. But you, dear boy, only wish to take this package of love letters to your sweetheart at Poitiers. But I have no sweetheart in Poitiers, I exclaimed. She continued grimly, helping to load another parcel of photographically reduced military documents and strategic communiques into the balloon's gondola, am taking pity on a poor love-struck boy caught in the midst of war. That's very cool. So she's straight up, she knows what's going on. And she's getting involved in war, which is fun. I thought we would prevail. We would have to. We would have to. That the other nations of the world would send aids. That our battalions in Lior would triumph and march to the city. I had thought our courage would stave off the Hearst and hunger and cholera, as well as Prussian guns. But Paris had surrendered, and the next month the Prussians rode their horses through the city in victory, while we ate Bismarck's grain and meat, as promised in the armistice. I looked at the gleaming, peaceful streets of Paris now, and suddenly war and siege. This is so interesting. Like, I wonder if I had given another answer, whether the Prussians would be here still, or whether it would be someone else. I have no idea. I snatched the Prussian airships from the air. I doused the fires raging around the city. I scrubbed the smoke from the sky. I doused the fires raging around the city. I resurrected the horses, rats, and cats from the slaughter. I snatched the Prussian airships from the air. And muted the sounds of artillery. I resurrected the Paris of my childhood. Its gaily lit cafes and dark catacombs, its boulevards and gutters, its poets and radicals, its dark-eyed youths with whom I had danced and kissed on the banks of the Seine. Seine? I promised myself then that this is how I would remember Paris. It is how I remember my city, even now. Which is like, let's just explore the city and see what we find. And it's just have this really excellent little, moment. Let's plan. Departs in 2 days. Arrive Sunday. Let's arrive Friday, and let's negotiate. Partial Englishman's wardrobe should change the night. Okay, so that's why I have the thing. Come on. Negotiate? Continue? I can afford that. Oh, it would cost an extra. Dope. Let's go. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Okay, let's... Hotel? And then quickly dart out. We took a hotel for the night. We will be comfortable here, Monsieur Fogg remarked, but travelling overnight will often be more efficient. So we must board the longest journeys available. Where possible. So we must board the longest journeys available. I think that's a good one. Perhaps, he replied. Still, the surrounds of the Hotel Ritz were most enjoyable. Okay, let's depart. Embark. Oh, hold on. Let's buy another before we head off. Let's go to market. Let's buy another suitcase. And let's bring this. And let's bring this. Didn't mean to do that. Let's get cracker biscuits. Embark. Go. Okay. So I have another suitcase, so I don't really need to worry about that as much as I thought I would. We boarded our train at Gare de Lyon, which had opened only the previous week. The ticket booths were all staffed by automata. Well, compared to leaving London, it was a calm affair. Let's learn about these automata. And cylinder phonographs installed throughout the station played La Marseillaise in triumph. We found a compartment and settled into plush seats with a complimentary glass of Provençal rosé to grace the trip. We French, we know how to travel. Or I raise my glass to Monsieur Fogg. I'm gonna say let's be proud of France. I declared. Is it too much to hope for the rest of the journey will be so comfortable? Yes, said Monsieur Fogg shortly, before taking a single parsimonious sip of his wine. Let's converse. Greetings, monsieur. Good afternoon. My name is Alfred Dumont. Nice/Venice. Speaking of cars, I've gathered one can travel in a private car from Nice to Venice, but the journey is a tiring one. Speaking of cars, I understand one can travel from private car from Cairo to Suez, but the journey is a tiring one. Cracker biscuits. Biscuit, monsieur? You are too kind. Let's find out about Nice. Talking more about Nice. The Riviera is only just becoming fashionable because of the train. Nice to Rome. Is there a route from Nice to Rome? I believe so. I met a woman who designed parts of the Blue Line ferry from Nice to Rome. Let's find out about Rome. What can you tell me about Rome? You know, I know that you can buy zoetropes in Rome. They are extremely valuable in Bucharest. But answer me this. I've worked this line since it opened. We are seeing more famous people these days. Indeed? That's so. You and Monsieur Fogg are the most famous, of course. Let's find out about Venice. What can you tell me about Venice? I've heard they sink their dead in canals, you know. Venice to Zurich. Is it possible to go from Venice to Zurich? I think you're out of luck there. Venice to Luxor. I've heard you can pick up Egyptian carp scarabs in Luxor. They will sell for a fortune in Bandar Abbas. Cool. A few hours passed by, and I spent them in conversation, trying to gather information for our next leg. I met a charming French master who had a pleasant, if unproductive, conversation, whom I quickly abandoned as knowing nothing. Let's go with that one. The train rolled on, arriving onto Nice late in the evening. We stepped out to a balmy afternoon weather and a gentle murmur in the air. Ah, my friends, the sea. Your character is now dependable. I don't know what that means. You seem quite a handy man to have about, Passepartout. So, let's figure this out. Hold on. I wanna... Okay, let's have a nice sleep in Venice, in Nice. The long pebbled beach of Nice were filled with Italians of one sort or another, a few protesting the loss of the city to France, a few selling sweet pastries. A few protesting the loss of the city to France, and quoting Garibaldi with great passion. I ignored them and took to the sea, while I strolled along the promenade, then retired early. Watching the ships come and go from the harbour. Since being seated from the back to the bosom Francais, Nice had become a bustling hub of activity. Boats piled the waters daily, and there was talks of building a tram to link the hotels to the beaches and the casinos. I found a sailor to talk to. Ooh. So do I want to talk to a sailor and maybe find out about shipping routes, or do I want to gamble? I like the idea of gambling, because I could make money, I could lose money. I maybe went to one of those casinos myself, thinking I could perhaps earn a little money, but it seemed that Nice had gone a long way in the world, and I was refused admission. Gentlemen and ladies only, the doorman said. No one of the lower classes. And where do the lower classes go to gamble? I demanded. He looked about him. I know a card game, he replied quietly, but the stakes are high. I gestured at him to tell me more. 500 to play, he said. Down there. He nodded towards a set of basement steps, leaning towards the service entrance under the casino. I thanked him and went below. The lair I found down there, I will not describe at length. Suffice to say that the surly-looking clientele, men and women both, were sat around a stained table, drinking rough whiskey as they played. Had the game been whist, I might have won. I ventured a hand or two, and was rapidly hustled into playing for longer. These fine fellows had clearly eaten the likes of me for breakfast in the park. I got out with my shirt still on, but 500 pounds poorer. Still, I did at least learn about the most efficient way to book races via Venice, but perhaps the most expensive information. But it was the most expensive information I had ever earned. My feet were tired. I murmured my goodbyes to the sea, and I knew to France and returned to my master. Your funds have gone down significantly. Your character is now organized. Okay, let's go to Venice. Embark. 2 suitcases. Okay, so that's before 5 p.m. So I got time. Let's go to the market. Ooh. Is urban travel on? Let's buy that. Let's buy this hat. Let's buy that one too. We can go to the bank and get some money out, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to explore for 4 hours because we only have to worry about being places at 5 p.m. I took a few hours to explore, investigating the various options for how we might continue our journey. Aww. Let's embark. This promises to be a bothersome option, but the driving cap from our open road set should make my master more comfortable. Interesting. So that negates the... So the clothing gets used for a bunch of different things, which is very cool. Bozek car. I like that car. The journey across the mountains was glorious, and the sun beat upon us and made us feel lofty as kings. A shame, then, that the car stank of grease and oil. But the finest thing about the trip was the car. I'm staying optimistic, because I can make the journey better. What a magnificent contraption. Levers to move, wheels to go round and round. I delighted in its every bump and judder. Converse. Greeting, mademoiselle Mibel. I don't normally talk to passengers. Let's ask about Venice. I heard they sink the dead in the canals, you know. I have nothing to say. Venice to Rome? Yes, you can get from Rome to Venice by public carriage, but the journey is a tiring one. Let's go with this one. Is there a route from Rome to Krasnovodsk? Novodsk. I'm sure I have no idea, but there is neither bank nor market in Krasnovodsk. Vodsk. But tell me, you like driving? Yes. Indeed, it's exhilarating. How could anyone not? Tell me about Venice. Have you heard of the Skula? Be wary, that is all I will say. Cracker biscuits. A biscuit, Mademoiselle Mibel? Don't mind if I do. Tell me more about Venice. They say the whole city is a ship. Cool. Belgrade. Luxor. Honestly, really, there's neither bank nor market in Luxor. I might have to go to Rome just because of the routes. The road was not long. By midway, we had crested the mountains, and our journey down was nearly almost steam-free. We rolled with the driver pumping the brake handle. Oh, I relish the fresh air. Let's go. I rolled with the driver pumping the brake handle. Of the horses twice a minute, every minute for the next 6 hours. It took us to reach level ground once more. And then there was the Adriatic Sea, but there was still another 2 hours to go. Tell me about the Adriatic Sea. Sparkling as though encrusted with jewels, thoughts of grimy London flew from my head. This was the life. In short, the car did not explode, and we were rowed across the gulf to the city of canals. The lamps were just being lit. And we lost ourselves to the narrow, winding alleys, enjoying the smells of grilling fish and red wine, and the sparkle of glass from shop windows. This was a pretty place we had arrived in indeed. Your character is now dependable. Still dependable. And the health is doing okay. Oh, health is bad. Plan? Okay, before 5 p.m, so we get time to explore. I was walking along the canal side in Venice when I found myself in the midst of a group of revelers. They wore a fabulous array of masks, some beak-nosed, others brightly feathered, and even some spun of fine glittering wire. I bowed in greeting, or I extricated from myself from the rackets group. With this game, I am going to jump right into all the things. I'm going to be excitable, I'm going to explore, and all the rest of it. I'm not really interested in being quiet. That's why I gambled all that money away. I bowed in greeting and gave them such a surprise that one tripped, turned, and then tumbled into the canal. Her friend seemed drunkenly unconcerned and fell about pealing laughter as the woman cursed and thrashed in the dark water. I dove to the rescue, reaching her in a few strokes. Zut her laws, the water was cold. She kicked and fought as I hauled her to a nearby flight of steps. Famietta is a daughter of the canal, one of her friends put in. You should have left her in. Another drunken youth agreed. It is the only time she bathes. Fiammetta coughed and choked as I hauled her from the water. I averted my eyes tactfully. For her sudden clothing was immodestly plastered to her skin. Who are you? She demanded, seeming to see me for the first time. Her friends made various kissing noises and suggested a variety of improbable roles for me. A clown, she said. No, another interjected. An agent of the Pope. Yet another added sotto voice. Famietta's foreign lover, which called them all to laugh as Famietta cursed them with admirable thoroughness. I introduced myself with a bow, or are you alright? I'm gonna be bold. I introduced myself with a bow, and the effect was only a little ruined by the dripping. Passepartout, at your service. What manner of creature are you, Senor Passepartout? She demanded. I am a valet, I am a traveller, I am a gentleman of the world. I am a valet. And what is that, some sort of policeman, she asked? No wonder you throw yourselves in canals after innocent citizens. Her friends laughed and I bristled. You are very rude, or farewell, went Bizelle. Farewell. Do not worry yourself, for I shall, she replied with wide, unfriendly smile. And so I slipped back to Monsieur Fogg as the revellers opened another bottle of wine to appease the canal-sodden friend. Let's explore. Wow. I was awaiting my turn at a gondola rank near the Rialto Bridge when a gondolier from across the canal waved frantically to catch my attention. Monsieur, I will take you. I recognized that voice. I waved her over. I keep my head down. I recognized that voice. Mon Dieu, it was the very woman I had pulled from the canal the night before. I waved her over. I kept my head down. I waved her over. Having tired her waiting in line, she made a sharp turn through the water, earning the ire of several boatmen who had to swerve to avoid her. Fiammetta, the booking agent who ran the rank, shook his fist in her direction. Leave my customers alone. You deserve no customers, Zorzi, Famietta shouted back, ignoring me entirely. Was it possible she did not remember me? Those creatures of yours are not gondoliers. They know nothing of the soul of Venice. I did not understand her meaning until I peered at one of the gondolas in the rank, so I went to question the booking agent. I'm going to peer at the gondolas because I want to do that. Pablo, the oarsmen at the sterns were machines. of extraordinary beauty or fearsome inhumanity? Extraordinary beauty. Their bodies were made of inlaid copper and azure Venetian glass, their faces covered by fine feathered carnival masks. Signor, my automaton gondoliers are the pride of Venice, Zorzi insisted breathlessly as he reached me. They are guaranteed safe by the Scuola, our local artificers guild. Farmietta here is a troublemaker. From the water, Farmietta called, I am a true gondolier. I nodded and stepped into one of Zorzi's gondolas, into Farmietta's gondolas, or away into the crowd. Let's hang out with Farmietta. I prefer people to machines, I told Zorzi with a shrug. Farmietta gave him a perfectly executed mocking curtsy as he pulled away. No mean feat, while also holding an oar and balancing on the prow of the low craft. I like machines, but I'll do that. I want to hang with Fiammetta. Zorzi supported the Risorgimento, the Italian unification, Fiammetta told me as she pushed us forward. Now she is a bootlicker of the Scuola and dabbles in their infernal mechanicals. You fell in the canal last night, I told her. Do you remember? She flushed and dragged her oar in the water through with unnecessary ferocity. I forget, and so should you. We are trying to save Italy from the Scuola. No time for this nonsense. Tell me about the Scuola. I said placatingly. They were once the Venetian Artificers Guild, but broke with it and renamed themselves when they sided with the Reunifiers against the Pope. Do continue. She took in a deep breath. It is an open secret that the Scuola run Italy, in all but name. The king is their puppet. We are a kingdom run by artificers. Is that so bad? Is it terrible? Better the artificers than the Pope. I like that this game is really making you engage with the politics. This is cool. Let me think about this. I want to mention the Pope just to see what she thinks of it. But I also want to agree that it is terrible. I'll say it is terrible. Maybe the Pope will turn up. It is terrible, I exclaimed. Directly influencing governance was against the Artificer's creed, but it seemed that the Scuola had some revolutionary ideas of its own. The gondola slid onward. I listened as Fiammetta raged against the Scuola, where I turned to look at the scenery. The Scuola has money and power in their infernal devices. They are an impossible enemy. She gave me a sharp look before tugging a length of grey and red braid from her cap and handing it to me. But there are those who fight still. The Zouave of Rome will never surrender to the Scuola. Perhaps, my friend, you are one of us. I barely knew how to respond. I smiled weakly in reply, or I took the braid and nodded. She smiled and gave me a small, sincere salute. We lapsed into silence. We rode past palazzos and Gothic churches. So yeah, I think that like my passeporteur is a person who fought for French independence from the Prussians, and who is for people, self-governing, as it were, rather than being under the hand of some other infernal artificers or something. Each more grand than the last. Fiammetta gave me a potted history of Venice in her own idiosyncratic style. It seemed the fountains were being fitted with water pumps. It was a pleasant enough way to spend an afternoon. It seemed the foundations were being fitted with water pumps to push the water downwards and thereby lift the city up. The Scuola will make Venice into a ship, Fiammetta told me. No doubt they will sail around the world to make war. I did not like the thought of a city of artificers who had broken from the guild's credo, roaming free about the world. The Zouave braid should fetch a good price in St. Petersburg, should we decide to sell it. Get out of here. much is... Okay, I can get 3 bags to go to Rome, where I want to go because of that thing. Can I get a Carnival mask? I think I'm going roughly in Bucharest direction. Okay. Is there anything else to do in here? Let's depart and go to Rome. And then make our way... Hold on. Bucharest, Petersburg, okay, so I'm heading towards Bucharest in the long term, not Budapest. All right, let's embark. Comfortable conditions from the and the open road. This looks like a bothersome option, but the driving cabin from open road set should make the Master more comfortable. Let's get out of here. Trevithick steam carriage. I actually have a relative called Trevithick, and my theory is that a person called Trevithick invented the steam train or did something to do with that, and I think that's like a distant relative of mine. So that's really cool. There was a regular service shuttling people from Venice to Rome. Although we saw at the ranks where people queued to board, there were actually 2 services, one open and one concealed by a screen. I peeked, of course, and we were starting to see an orderly queue of automata waiting to board the carriages one after the other. Some seemed impossibly lifelike, but for strange appendages where their arms and legs should have been. I did not understand what I was seeing until much later in Rome, where we would learn the truth of these terrifying automata. The carriage for people came and filled up and whisked us away from the water and into the mountains. Let us converse. I can comb Fog to up his health, but I'll just talk for now. Greetings, Monsieur le Chauffeur. Yes, my friend? Begin conversation. Tell me about Rome. They say the Venetian artificers control all of Italy behind the scenes. I want to go... Dubrovnik. Absolutely. My brother worked in Rome when the cross-Mediterranean airship to Dubrovnik suffered a fire. Baghdad... Sofia? It's possible to go from Dubrovnik to Sofia? I believe so. My mother designed parts for the carriage from Dubrovnik to Sofia. Goodbye. Oh, good. But Dubrovnik doesn't have a market, if I remember correctly. The journey was uneventful, and I spent it resting. I think we can complete our Englishman's war order here for protection against uncomfortable positions. Let's first find out what the journey to Dubrovnik is like. Oh, cool! The cross-Mediterranean airship departs for Dubrovnik tomorrow at 12 noon. Okay, cool. So... let's go to a hotel. Halcyon says, wait, are you taking carriages across water? First of all, hello? Yes. Previously, I basically took a train underneath the water to go to this sort of thing. I think the carriage that they mentioned, though, is from Dubrovnik to Sofia. So that was that, but it was kind of confusing. I thought that was like an option there, but I think that. Anyway, I was tossing a coin into the waters of the Trevi fountain when the Bersaglieri marched into the square with a distinctive fast jog and began rounding everyone up. I tried to slip away. Their uniform struck me as idiotic. I held up my hand. I ignored them as best I could. The uniform struck me as idiotic. Let's see where this is going. White trousers, spats, and a wide-brimmed cap, decorated with a fall of gleaming black Kali feathers. In my contemplation, I lost any chance to slip away. No matter, there were too many of them to avoid. A lanky man with only the sparse beginnings of a mustache gestured at me with his rifle. No, in fact, his entire arm was a rifle. So I moved. Let's go, his entire arm was a rifle, because that seems cool. Attached to his shoulder with iron bands and laid with elaborate symbols. I looked at his other hand. I looked up at his eyes, or I avoided his attention. I looked at his other hand. I'm being observant. I looked at his other hand, which was flesh and blood, but fitted with a bladed gauntlet of Murado glass and copper. The other Bersaglieri coppers sported similar modifications. They were half man, half automaton. "Come si chiama?" the blue-eyed soldier barked. I opened my mouth to reply. I did not intend to be helpful. Of course I understood, but I pretended not to. I did not intend to be helpful in the face of such intimidation. But then someone jostled me from behind, and I turned to see a figure in grey reaching into their pocket, then tossing out a grenade. I am no fool. I ran for my life, or chaos erupted. Chaos erupted. People began to scream and scatter in all directions. One of the Bersaglieri fired his rifle wildly at one of the tritons gracing the fountains. I only saw the man in grey flee down an alley. I'm not going to point and shout. Jesus. I chased after him instinctively. A rather foolish choice. Clearly my innate nobility, or as he probably had an escape route. I think this one is going to, like, my innate nobility is going to be making me try to stop this person. I'm going to go escape route, because that might get me further into this. Probably had an escape route planned. He made a sharp turn and I launched myself at his feet with a rather embarrassing grunt. I felt my age as I brought him down, and I had to spend a few moments catching my breath. I heard the thunder of his exploding grenade far behind me as the man in grey tried to find his feet, and then we both collapsed into the ground. You're a murderer and a terrorist, or who the hell are you? I demanded. Before sighing, in my discombobulation, I had switched to friends. To my surprise, he responded in kind. I am Alexandre Dubois. I am a Zouave, sworn to the Pope, he announced haughtily. You and your squirrel dogs will not break me. Oh! So the Zouave who the gondolier lady I spoke with before talked to are supporting the Pope. Also, Halcyon, to give you some background to this thing, a lot of things have happened. I've only been streaming for about 50 minutes, but like, there's all these politics going on. France has been taken over by the Prussians. Italy has been taken over. I think Italy has been taken over by the this secret guild of artificers called the Scuola, Scuola, this word. And the Zouave is this other faction I've met, who are sworn to the Pope. I've just learned, and want to stop the artificers from taking over Italy. Zouave, I declared, thinking of Famietta. The Zouave are bold rebels, the man nodded. That we are. He watched my face with evident fear. Well, he breathed, you have caught me. Will you turn me in, or will you come with me as a friend? I turned him in, I followed him, I let him go. I followed him. Back to an impressive mansion a stone's throw from the Ponte Siestio. It was the headquarters of the Zouave rebellion, but was also, as Alexandra somewhat sheepishly explained, his mumman's townhouse. He poured me a brandy and raised his glass. To the Pope he toasted. Ben Sur. I don't know what that means. Bien Sur? I'm going to say to Rome. I downed my drink in one. He set his glass down with a dull thunk. Now, my friend, you must have questions. The soldiers, were they human? Or the Artifice Guild is experimenting on people? They are not the guild any longer. They call themselves the Scuola, and there are limits to what they... there are no limits to what their depravity. I can see why you fight them, or what is their aim? I'm kind of like, I want to have a more... Like, I don't think just because there's robot people, it means they're bad people. So I'm going to ask, what is their aim? Only to see what they can achieve, I think, he sighed. But what of you, Passepartout? What brings you here? We're going around the world, or it is of little importance. It is of little importance, I replied, embarrassed by the frivolity of our wager in the face of such a struggle as his. You do not bring us aid, then? He glanced at Zouave braid around my wrist. I wondered. No. Do you stand a chance in your fight? Perhaps this is the future? This seems the most positive, so I will go with that. I wondered aloud. They have machines and money and power on their side. Alexandre flushed. We will not accept the rule of the Scuola. I, for one, will fight it until my very last breath, as you should, my friend. We spoke of Rome and the guild and many other things till the hour grew late, and I took my leave. As I walked back to our hotel, I could not help but see more signs of the Scuola's influence, or I kept my eyes down and did not look at the people. I don't want to go towards hating the robots, but I don't want to like keep my eyes down and be shy about it. So I'm gonna look around. Cobblers strapped in gleaming exoskeletons, glass blowers with ceramic hands, porcelain face automata fetching water and stoking fires, and even soliciting passing trade alongside working gals in scandalously low-cut dresses. Perhaps Rome is the future. I confess, I do not know. Your character is now zestful. That's kind of cool. I like this place. I can't. Let's wait till the market opens and see if we can buy cool stuff. We have to get out of here by midday. High winds. This looks like a bothersome route. Ottoman Gaelic airship. The journey to Dubrovnik was unusually in an airship, not owned not by the Scuola of Rome, but rather by the Ottoman Empire. I do not think it was welcome. Well, such matters were nothing to us. I do not think it was welcome. Certainly when we arrived, we found it ringed by soldiers, and every boarding passenger was thoroughly searched. They found nothing of interest, of course, except, I think, the Carnival mask, which mysteriously went missing in the process. Damn it. I have, like, a braid, which, like, indicates I'm a member of a secret resistance group. But we remained meek. They had rifles. Which I'm only doing because Fog is here. They had rifles for forearms, after all. We boarded like cattle into the Ark. Then the ropes were loose and the Gaelic airship lifted up into the air. Let us converse. Greetings, Captain. My dear Passepartout. Dubrovnik. What can you tell us? I'm sure you know all about Dubrovnik. No one has ever managed to successfully invade Dubrovnik successfully, but no one knows where not. I want to go to Belgrade. I'm supposed to go from Dubrovnik to Belgrade? I think someone's been telling tall tales. Sofia? I heard of someone who designed paths for the carriage from Dubrovnik to Sofia. On the subject of carriages, I've heard Lahore can be reached from Kabul by Palanquin along the Grand Trunk Road, but the journey is a tiring one. Sofia to Bucharest. Is it possible to go from Sofia to Bucharest? Yes, you go from Bucharest to Sofia by public carriage, but the journey is a tiring one. Cracker biscuits. Tell me about Bucharest. Have you heard that some buyers will pay well for fur coats from Bucharest? I want you to go to Athens. Let's say that some buyers will pay well for me from Athens. Tell me about Athens. All anyone knows about Athens is ancient history. This is ancient history. Goodbye. Okay, cool. The journey across the Adriatic was brief, with only time for me to settle my mast and take a brief turn around the deck, or press a few shirts. Settle my mast and take a brief turn around the deck. Before we were descending once more, aiming for a tiny landing pad perched all but in the sea itself. Dubrovnik, marked the captain. Too small for a proper port, but they'll never expand their boundaries. Why do you say that? Superstitious, Lord, the captain replied. They believe their city is built on a perfect coordinate, and to leave it would be suicide. They're part of the country, then? Or perfect how? Perfect how? The captain shrugged. They are wealthy enough to believe that what they want right now. The airship settled like a butterfly onto a leaf. I think the captain, as we hopped onto the wobbly board that led onto the shores of the Dalmatian city-state. Should you get bored, the captain called, I'll be this way again shortly. Fur coat should run as well here. Let's go to bed. The people of Dubrovnik that I met assured me their country, only one city large, was the most peaceful and most prosperous in the world. They spoke of their independence as a shining jewel on the face of the earth. It seemed that they were, despite their size, a military force to be reckoned with. I but demanded to know their secret. I'm interested in the military. Since they were almost swallowed by the French, the Austrians, and all but everybody else, when the rest of Dalmatia fell under the sway of one empire or another. That they held out, they assured me, was entirely because of the glass. Looking around the beer house left me no doubt as to what kind of glass was meant. I inquired what the glass was. I wonder what that has to do with the beer house. People drank from steins the rough size and shape of small kegs, and tradition appeared to demand that when one wasn't speaking, one was drinking. I mostly listened, or I talked long and loud. I mostly listened. And so ended up with a sore head with plenty of interesting tidbits of information about the city, its people, and the palace. But I heard little more of the glass, but sadly there was not much in the way of the onward journeys. Tell me about the glass. My inquiries led me to believe quite firmly that none of them had seen this glass either, or knew what it was. Perhaps it was a soldier's bravery that saved you, but it was clearly common legend. All quite certain that this glass, housed inside the Sponza Palace, that had kept their little city-state state free and occupied for nearly a century since its discovery. Could the glass help us travel around the world? Or are there assurances bordered on the devout? Let's find out if we can travel around the world with this weird glass. I asked one such storyteller, but the question was met with a shrug and another half-liter of wheat beer, so I soon resigned to myself to having no idea about what the secret of Dubrovnik might be. I turned my attentions to how best we might leave, or I returned to Monsieur Fogg, somewhat more confused than I had set out. What do we have to leave by? Go! Get out of here. I thought I had more time. Despite the internal tensions between this city-state and the oppressions on all sides, it was not difficult to find carriages to take us onwards. As I rode, I asked our driver about our destination, or I was content to ride silence. Tell me about a destination. But she only shook her head. I am no spy, she insisted. Not for either side. I'll carry people backwards and forwards, but they won't hear anything from. I assured her we were mere tourists. All very wise. I assured we were mere tourists. But she mimed, stitching her lips together, and then said nothing more. Let's wait. Squirrel raids anti-automaton rebel hideouts. Interesting. The road wound through heavy forests. Bandits roam these woods, our driver muttered. They aren't safe. I yelped, or then drive faster. Then drive faster, I suggested. And risk breaking the engine, out here miles from anywhere? I do not think that would be wise at all. Not at all. You seem very confident about this route, considering... I stay quiet and let her drive. You seem very confident about this route, considering... She looked at me beneath dark and level brows. There is a lever, just here, she said, indicating a small hooked control on the panel below the wheel. And when flicked, the engine overheats and eventually explodes. It could kill 12 bandits in a stroke, I think. And how are we protected? Or a most sensible precaution? How are we protected? I asked, but I knew the answer even before I spoke. She shook her head once and said nothing more, and I kept my eyes peeled for bandits, hoping to distract her attention away from there should we see any. We arrived in Sofia by late evening. Aww. No spam bots. Yes, and the number one rule of the chat is no spam bots, so I deleted Zai10res66619. You are gone. We arrived in Sevilla by late evening without being attacked and still in one piece. Most fortunate, our driver muttered. But now I have to drive home. Surely you can stay until morning, or I wish her luck. I wished her luck. Unloaded our cases and waved her away, happy to come out from the gloomy black cloud she carried above her head. Evening jacket coat as well here. Great. 5 p.m. Let's go to the hotel. I went for a cup of coffee in the evening and ended up seating opposite a group of men speaking Russian. I ignored them, or I leant over to listen. We will send word to Moscow. As for you, the whisper prodded his friend on the shoulder, and their voice dropped in an audible whisper. I leant closer. I managed to tip over my chair. The Russians looked up in surprise, then gestured quickly to one another and moved away. The waiter came and scooped me up. As he wiped coffee from my shirt and asked, "You were headed from here to Istanbul?" Who can say? I replied, still red-faced. He smiled, nodded, and slunk away. I returned to the hotel. Weird. Let's wait for the market to open. See what I can sell / buy. And then maybe let's explore. I'm not going to any of these places. Let's explore. Sofia was a small Ottoman-style town full of hammams and coffee shops. Its public squares were arranged around bright fountains and the muezzins of mosques that nestled alongside Eastern Orthodox churches. I spent the morning being steamed, pounded, kneaded, and pressed at one of the well-appointed bathhouses with Monsieur Fogg, or on my own with Monsieur Fogg. There you go. Who looked deeply troubled by the entire experience. Relaxation was not really Monsieur Fogg's forte. Or it was my métier, and I pitied him. His stiffness. Pitied him his stiffness, though not as much as I pitied the monsieur who would be attempting to ease it from his muscles. After our massages, we were ushered into the steam room along with 3 other fellows. I nodded at them or I ignored them. I nodded at them. And they returned the favour with the courtesy of a gentleman pretending very hard to be wearing more than a small towel around their waists. Monsieur Fogg, looking prim as ever, began reading a newspaper. I dared not speculate where he procured it from. The coals in the brazier spluttered as the gentleman continued the conversation. I lost myself in the steam. Tell me about the conversation. In rapid tones. Though I could have sworn they were speaking Russian rather than Bulgarian. How odd. I helped Monsieur Fogg dress himself after our bath. That was certainly an experience, he allowed, as I adjusted his cravat, although not one I care to repeat. I fear I have much to learn of my master's taste. Your relationship with Fogg has strengthened slightly, or your character is now well healed? And your character. Let's depart. Trevilic steam carriage to Bucharest. The luggage rack has space for 3 suitcases, which will suffice. Okay, cool. A Russian gentleman was driving his steam carriage across the hills and into Bucharest. We paid him a small fee and he let us clamber around. Though why you want to go there, I do not know, he grumbled, as he chuffed and puffed his small engine up the first of what would prove to be a many hills indeed. We are going around the world, or there are connections into Russia? I did not trouble to reply. We're going around the world, I told him. Is that so? He replied flatly. I am at a loss to understand why. I could only agree with the sentiment. So he ventured the subtlest of nods. The man replied, and we continued our drive. Let's converse, because we have to get out of Bucharest eventually. Greetings, driver. Cannot drive well if you are speaking. Perhaps you can sing. Be in conversation about Bucharest. Let's sing. What can you tell me about Bucharest? Let me tell you. One can travel aboard the freight train from Bucharest to Odessa. I want to check out Athens. No, Athens is the wrong way. Tell me you about Odessa. I can tell you about a time. What about Istanbul? I suppose we'll go from Odessa to Istanbul. I believe so. Istanbul can be reached from Odessa by Forliani hydrofoil. Cool. But the ferry is prohibitive. It's been just over a week. The best way on from Bucharest is the train to Odessa, our driver declared, if you can find it. The station there is a mess. Why so? I'm sure we'll have no much trouble. Why so? Everything in Bucharest is a mess. It is a country between things. A most odd man, this driver of ours, or in Jody's company. Most odd man. But he got us to our destination on time and without incidents. We thanked him and went on our way. Where's Sunday? Negotiate. The rest in costing studio results. Oh, 2 days in Bucharest then. No. It's hotel. Monsieur Fogg, that Bucharest was known rather widely as Little Paris. He was certainly trying to vex me with his comparison or make me feel at home. Make me feel at home. Though my Frenchman's pride bristled a little at the comparison. I took an evening stroll from the hotel through the main boulevard of Bucharest, Podul Mogos Soialie. Apologies for my pronunciation. It was paved in small cobblestones, rather than macadam or asphalt, and was lined with gas lamps in the latest German style. Gentlemen and ladies paraded their stylish sprung carriages up and down the avenue. It was undeniably charming. I want him to say it was rivaling the Champs-Elysees, but I don't think he thinks that. So let's go, but it was no Champs-Elysees. No matter what Mr. Fogg might think. At the furthest point of my walk, I passed a lamp, cunningly fashioned in the shape of a lily. This was the output of the Artificers Guild here in Bucharest. I tried the door, but it was locked, and the lights inside were dimmed. Strange, the hour was not so late, I thought. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. Oh, we're making friends. Let's explore. We're here for a few days. I took a tram to the city centre, which was modern in every sense of the word. Electric lights illuminated all but a handful of shop fronts and boyars' residences. Bozek cars sputtered oil fumes into the air, and vendors hawked all manner of little automata on the street corners. I saw the lamp of the lily once more. I pushed open the door, and immediately began to cough from the dust in the air. I looked at the dark-haired woman or the shelves. The dark-haired woman. Behind the far counter, she seemed startled by my appearance, and narrowed her eyes in suspicion. C'est ça va ajoute? I mimed a lack of understanding, which caused her expression to darken further. She gave me a piercing look before switching to French. I'm Romanian, not a simpleton, she said curtly. I bowed and introduced myself. She gave her name only as Steinberg, omitting her proper title, and which placed me in a rather awkward position. Madame Steinberg. I hesitated. Just Steinberg, she corrected sternly. Now what do you want here? So this is the Artificers Guild, I asked, somewhat unimpressed. The guild is not very popular at the moment, she allowed, shrugging. Independence is the current fashion. The guild is too Ottoman for our new prince. Also, Steinberg gave me a look of frank challenge. The guild openly hires Jews. The guild follows its own laws. I mean that in the most positive way. The prince must know that. So the prince pretends he doesn't know who keeps his tram running and his gats and his who keeps his trams running and his gas lamps lit. I browse the guild wares. Oh, so she's maybe she's for hiring Jews. I hope. Weird. Anyway, for a good half hour, we found little of value of interest beyond a single dusty medallion. I asked Steinberg about it, and she said to me blankly, "You don't recognize an artificer's medallion? Where have you been living?" London. I replied, though only for mere days before my master undertook this journey of ours. I explained our trip, what I knew of it. So you were traveling? She replied. I envy you that. We are going around the world. I'm going to be excited. The prince doesn't like it, which is why it's brought up. Yes, good. Her name's also Steinberg, which suggests that she's not from Romania and she might be Jewish, I assume. So I hope. It's an assumption. She could just be German, but yeah. We are going around the world, I replied, as fast as possible too. Now that is the only good thing. She nodded, then pointed at something at the back of a dusty shelf. There, that bag, take it. What does it contain? On the side of the bag was inked a skull and crossbones. It's a preparation of paraffin and crystalline oxygen, she replied. Will you be traveling by Rosier balloon? What is a Rosier balloon? I asked. She shook her head with some kind of amusement. A kind of hot air balloon invented by Rosier. She pointed the bag. Throw this into the burner if you do. You'll find the extra elevation will lead to considerable extra speed. I took the bag and the medallion. I took the bag. I left the bag behind. I'll take both. The artificer smiled a strange, dark smile. Then I took my leave of Steinberg and wished her well, with sincerity. A most extraordinary person. I walked back to Monsieur Fogg. That medallion should just fetch a good price in Niagara, should we decide to sell it. Sure. That makes a lot of money. St. Petersburg. What was the thing I was trying to sell? That's a lot of money there. I'm gonna sell this fur coat. Whiskey? Oil paints? Driving goggles? Dusty road? Get that one. Let's buy whiskey. Let's buy driving goggles. Oh, cool. A fuel with included oxidizer. Very modern. Explain to me that. What is... So oxidizer has something to do with oxygen. I don't even know what oxidizer is. I have no idea of such things. Where am I going? I'm doing to Odessa, and then I'm going to go to Istanbul. Could potentially go to Moscow. Well, oxygen is the usual oxidizer, but there are other means. Let's buy that. Spent so much money. So things like rocket boosters have a fuel component, which is some hydrocarbon or another, and an oxidizer component, which is usually nitrogen oxide. What can we find about this? Say the hotel. Which lets it be independent of its surroundings and have an even, predictable, reliable, and fast burn. Right. Yeah, I think that's just them being futuristic or something, or them being like having cool things. I don't think that like the thing with the object that I have is that if I throw it into a hot air balloon, I can go faster. Which seems... I don't know if oxidizers will help in that instance, but I have no idea about fuels. With what remained of the day, I did some minor alterations to our clothing. I spent a few hours walking around. Minor alterations to our clothing. To ensure everything was shipshape for our upcoming departure. Depart. Embark. Ooh. Bucharest was on the main line of the Orient Express, but its station saw numerous other services go in and out. So many so that I could not work out which one went to Odessa. But with a little standing around and tipping my hat, I chose at random. Therefore. We boarded the one painted with an anchor. We boarded the one painted with steelfish. Unfortunately, it turned out to be destined for Minsk. I cursed my luck. I pretended not to have noticed my mistake. Hoping that perhaps Monsieur Fogg would merely ascribe the error to a assertive decision on my part. But Monsieur Fogg merely opened his notebook, drew a single stroke across its last line, and began a new page. Now organized. Good. This is where I want to be. Converse. Greetings, Monsieur. Call me Monsieur Drags, if you must speak to me. Minsk. Pray tell me about Minsk. Minsk is really very cold. Minsk to Moscow. Yes, my mother always wanted to take the Belarus Express from Minsk to Moscow. Tell me about Moscow. I know you can pick up engine oil in Moscow that will sell for profit in Beijing. How do they know this? Phineas Fogg is dying. We woke to find that we had still not yet arrived. Low hills rolled past, and the trees outside the window changed to thick pine forest, clambering up and down over rocky slopes which the train itself blasted straight through. We passed a border post marking the edge of Russian land, but we still rolled on. It's more tiring than you expected, okay. Plan. Okay, Minsk. Let's go to the market. Depart. Embark. Hire extra space. Go. I've been to Minsk once. It's quite surreal. Why is it surreal? The train had pulled out from Minsk station well after nightfall. Monsieur Fogg had taken to tapping his watch every time we began a new journey, as though he was recording the time of departure through some fantastical spring-operated signal. Perhaps he was sending a message, most likely a nervous habit. Perhaps he was sending a message to whoever it was back in London who persuaded him on this curious journey of ours. It's kind of cool how it like implies that there is something beyond this journey that is happening, and I don't know if we ever got into this. I don't think we ever really touched onto it. I ever really touched onto it on the last time I played. So I'm kind of curious about it. Because there's like so many different variations of this journey that like maybe one says what is actually happening. Or it's just left ambiguous and it's more interesting to kind of speculate myself. Okay, so I'm traveling through Russia. There was little time to do anything before total darkness enveloped the train. Converse. Hello, Monsieur Kresotkin. What's the most unusual one? Vladivostok. I discovered you reached Vladivostok from Moscow. I've heard the fastest way to Vladivostok is from here, is via Karamskaya. Have some whiskey. Most generous. Moscow. What can you tell me about Moscow? Moscow is a place full of suspicion and unrest. Cracker biscuits. Sounds wonderful. Moscow. Tell me about Moscow. I prefer the Kremlin to St. Basil's onion domes. Halcyon says, well, you have a building that is very tall, very common as Bas Rezif of World War II soldiers, and there's a KFC on the first floor of that building. That's history. That's what that is. Complicated history. I believe so. Moscow is linked to St. Petersburg by train, but the journey is a tiring one. I think I have something that I can sell in St. Petersburg. What can you tell me about St. Petersburg? Apparently St. Petersburg is connected to Smeerenburg by air, but the journey is a tiring one. Goodbye. Wow! I am going north. Morning came and we were still crossing the Russian countryside, the train moving at a slow and steady way. I spent the time waiting on my master's needs, talking to other passengers, or watching the scenery go by. Waiting on my master's needs. Let's bump up your health. And keeping him comfortable where he perked up rapidly. Finally, we pulled into the stone edifice that was Moscow Station and disembarked. Some of the possessions can own us while we have true. Money. That's a lot. Do I need anything? Oh. I feel like I need to get rid of some of this stuff. Let's get rid of that. I'm not going to use this. Like that. St. Petersburg. If you're going to the North Pole, you might need the Pacific time table. I think so. I'm not going to get rid of the time table. Do you think I can get rid of the European time? I feel like that's fine. Fuck it. I want to go down to... I mean, let's see how we're going. Wow. Negotiate. Oh, fuck, that's a lot. Oh, man. Eesh. That's expensive. Good news is I can sell my thing for money. I can sell my medallion. My braid. Moscow was not a comfortable city for a Frenchman. A local composer had just written a piece people were calling the 1812 Overture, commemorating the Russian victory over Napoleon's invading Grande Army in that fateful year. Patriotic passions were at fever pitch, but I did not let them stop me. So I stayed very sensibly indoors. Alas, my friends, my solitude was quickly interrupted by an officious rap on the door. Two men in clothes so plain they were most certainly police officers invited themselves in. The new Tsar was a paranoid source, or I heard of the Okhrana, the newly formed secret police which investigated revolutionary and malcontents. My luck, it seemed, had deserted me. So I resolved to make my own or escape out the back door. Escape out the back door. Poor Fogg. I have always been quick in a pinch, and I was on the metal fire escape at the back of the building before the police had finished picking out lock. I had rather abandoned Monsieur Fogg to the police mercies. When I returned an hour later, he seemed ashen-faced and particularly still, as if he had endured some terrible ordeal. Had they tormented him for information, or simply rifled messily through our belongings? Okhrana, literally the security, mall cops. Could be. I did say secret police. So hold on. Let's explore. I spent a few hours in exploration, learning ways in which we might travel onwards. So how many bags is it? Yeah, okay, that's good. That's why I was doing this. Sell some biscuits. Let's keep the whiskey. And let's keep the dragon goggles. Alright. I'll save the hotel. As night fell, I tended to Monsieur Fogg. I ran a few errands for the hotelier. I went out to explore a little. I think money's my number one issue. I run a few errands for the Atelier, earning £100. It's pretty good. Let's plan. Okay, cool. Tsar's Finger. Not an appetizing name. Appetizing? The line from Moscow to St. Petersburg was affectionately known as the Tsar's Finger and ran perfectly straight from a bend near the city of Novograd. The story went that the route was drawn by the Tsar. But the story told is not worth repeating. And despite being forced to hear it from the guard himself, I will not inflict it on my readers. Let's converse. Greeting, Monsieur Panfilov. I am traveling on the business of the highest order. To Petersburg to Smearenburg. I'm told that St. Petersburg is connected to Smearenburg by air, and the journey is a tiring one. Speaking of inventions, I understand Gastown can be reached from San Francisco aboard the gyrocopter. Smearenburg, the North Pole. Is it possible to travel from Smearenburg to the North Pole? No idea, but I do know there is neither hotel, bank, nor market in the North Pole. Understood. Reykjavik. There's something I do know. The gazes in Reykjavik go all the way into the earth itself. I can go to the center of the earth? Reykjavik. I've heard that there are dinosaurs in Iceland, but it cannot be true. Reykjavik to Quebec. Sounds unlikely. Reykjavik to Snowdon. Have you heard that there is neither bank nor market in Snowdon? Gastown. I feel like Gastown's like one of those old God, I want to go to North Pole. Gastown's one of these like fictional. Oh my god, you can also go to space? You're going to St. Wait, hold up. You're going to Petersburg, but they just refer to Novograd, which is the same city. You can also go to space. This is an alternate history. There is two places. I have no idea. I want to go to space so bad. Am I gonna get like shot out of a cannon like in that Jules Verne story? That'd be pretty cool. The train was comfortable enough. I spent my first day abroad waiting in my master's need in conversation, watching the scenery go by. In conversation, because I got to figure out how to get out of the North Pole to find options for our next journey. I encountered a nervous Muscovite clerk and had a pleasant if unproductive conversation, whom I abandoned as quickly over nothing. And a couple of the little hours away. We settled down for the night. Damn it. So if I remember correctly, the story about going to space was, I think, set in Baltimore? In like the Jules Verne story? So maybe I'll go to Baltimore. The spaceport line is pretty hard. You think you need to hit important meetups all across the globe. We'll see. I've been to a lot of weird places. I can probably make it. I have no idea. Second day aboard, the train was quieter. There seemed to be a visible lessening of tension as we approached the borders of Russia. I was quite relieved. I was somewhat alarmed myself. Why am I alarmed? Also, aren't I in Russia? I was in Moscow. I was somewhat alarmed myself, however, as we appeared to be heading quite the wrong way to circumnavigate the globe. What was Monsieur Fogg's intention? Shortly after we arrived at the grand imposing surrounds of St. Petersburg Station. Oh! I'll do that. Market. What was the expensive thing? Yes. It's not about leaving Russia, it's about being close to the border, far away from the baleful gaze of the Tsar. Right. We're on the Tsar's finger, though, so I think that must do something. Cool, I have a preparation of paraffin, which I could use in this ship, even though I would probably lose that. I don't think I'm going towards Baku anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Damn, I lost time too. Oh wow, this is gonna take days. Let's go to the hotel. Nevsky Prospect, immortalized by Dostoevsky and Gogol, would have been would have been unrecognizable to those venerable riders. Imperial soldiers filled the streets in Galitzine Kordonki, enormous black iron hydraulic walkers. They were battling riding peasants, although we stayed boldly and decisively away. They were battling riding peasants who were piloting threshers or were being strapped into hammer-handed automata of their own, no doubt stolen from the nearby factories. I sided up to a firebomb-wielding peasant, or I waved down a Kodonki driving soldiers. Peasant. Who tossed her improvised incendiary with muscular ease before leaning in to offer me a ear. We bantered back and forth before settling upon German as lingua franca. Why German of all languages? Why are you riding? I asked, ignoring the thud of explosions and the guttural shouts all around. Comrade Ravka, she introduced herself, slipped me a hand-bound copy of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. We tried to form a union in my factory, and the Tsar called in the army to suppress us. So you throw bombs in response, or all this to form a union? I explained, looking around at the decimation around me. The history of the world is a history of class struggle, Comrade Ravka told me with a wink. So far, my fellow workers and I have been fighting without weapons, but no longer. Look out. A Kodonki was bearing down on us. I pulled my friend clear, or I readied myself to spring up. I had been an acrobat, as I may have mentioned, and I thought I would do it with ease, but I was too slow. My friend had already torn the soldier from the Kodonki harness and settled in herself. She wheeled it around. And for a moment I feared she would crush me for my cowardice. No, and I saluted. Then she was away, charging towards the ranks of stiff-jacketed soldiers storming through the avenue. A great wordless cry roused up. It echoed through against the domes of the church and travelled all the way down to, the wide avenue and through the alleys until it reached the Neva River, which transmitted it down its watery curving length. The city of St. Petersburg was going to war with itself, or I'll be frank, I ran away. War to itself, and I slipped away, hoping Comrade Ravka would not be one of the casualties. Seize the means of oppression, absolutely. What time is this departing? Yeah, I don't have time. Ugh. These boots were a good investment. Wait, I gotta check something. I gotta see where they have the book. I arranged transfer for us, Monsieur Fogg said, cool as a cucumber. I nearly spat out my tea. Where are we headed, Monsieur? Monsieur, that is my job. Where are we headed, Monsieur? I asked an entrance. He shuffled his newspaper. We're going to the north. He took a sip of his tea. Very north. How far north? I held my tongue and waited. How far north? I asked suspiciously. Smearenburg, he said, showing the location marked on his almanac. It was indeed very north, perhaps even very, very north. But should we not be heading east? Why are we going there? And then? I'm gonna pretend that I'm not planning to go to the North Pole. You should be the first assistant to bring the Communist Manifesto to the North Pole, and there I will kill my master. Monsieur Fogg looked at me, a gleam in his ear. Sometimes, Passepartout. He said slowly, the best way to untie a knot is not to untie it at all. Sometimes we must simply slice through it. The Alexandrian solution. We had surely gone mad. I did dare not ask the Alexandrian solution. I remembered, and Fancy's cool blue eyes warmed a little. Then, Monsieur, if you are exactly to degrade, does that make me his loyalty Bucephalus or his General Hephaeston? I don't want to be a horse or a general. I'll be a general, I guess. I cast my eyes down after I spoke the words, aware of my presumption. Hephaeston was more than bodyguards. Hephaeston was more than Alexander's general. He was a friend, a bodyguard, an alter ego. A friend, perhaps even more than a friend. I don't have any interest in... I'm gonna be that. But I was but a valet. Monsieur Fogg merely took a breath, rustled his newspaper, and ordered me to ready our bags to depart soonest. I found myself entirely full of gratitude for his habit of stiff resolve. Relations with Fogg have strengthened. It's interesting that I could have become his, lover, but interesting. Phineas Fogg attempts round-the-world venture. One more hunting. Hunting balloon? The captain of our balloon was a dark-browed woman by the name of Yana Starostina. What is it exactly you hunt? I asked, eyeing a set of large harpoons lashed firmly to the upper deck. Whales, walruses, reindeer, the captain answered jovially enough. Even polar bears sometimes. Bears? I paled. Halcyon says, wow, Fogg is such a hussy. I'm practically throwing myself at you. Such ungentlemanly conduct. I'm not. I'm choosing the options where I'm not, because he's annoying. He's been nice on this journey, but I've played this before and he was the most annoying person, so I'm not doing that. Bears, I paled, taking a step back. I have a particular fear of bears. I think bears are not over fond of Frenchmen either, she replied with a little shrug. With that, she was summoned to the navigation room, and I retired to our cabin to lie down, with some agitation. This is so cool. When we woke the next morning, our cabin door was locked. I banged my fist against it. I turned to our master in horror. I banged my fist against it and shouted for assistance. There was no response until my master cleared his throat. I suspect the crew is aware of our predicament already, he remarked. We shall simply have to wait and see what the good captain requires of us. You think it was the captain? I knew she looked shifty. I think you think it was the captain. By the time the door handle rattled, it was late afternoon, and I'd nearly worn a groove in the floor, or I'd sunk into a pit of despair. I nearly worn a groove in the floor. With my pacing. My mustache was all a quiver with anxiousness. The door opened to reveal Captain Starostina. Gentlemen, she said evenly, as though she was not holding us prisoner. Perfidy, I pointed an accusing finger. Captain, I replied with heavy irony. Explain, I demanded. Captain, I replied with heavy irony. I was pleased to see her wince a little. I do not deny that I have played the blackguard with you, she sighed, and you will have your explanation. Pause tomorrow. We are paying customers. What will you charge tomorrow? Will you lock us in until then? We are paying customers, I reminded her. You must give her freedom or our money. I am still taking you to your destination, the captain replied, looking rather taken aback. Are you a captain, madame, or a pirate? I hope she's a pirate. Investing my tone with lofty disdain. Damn you, she scrubbed her hand through her dark hair. I will not be so accused. You will have a part of your money back, and I will hear no more of it. With that, she closed the cabin door behind her, and I heard a lock slide shut. Your funds have gone up somewhat. Your Your relations with Fogg have deteriorated slightly. Why? I did good. Health. I confess by the time Captain Starosina turned to release us, I had begun to see the human hour situation, convinced myself our throats would be slit shut, form the most outlandish optimistic theories. In particular, that we had changed course and were now flying south to warmer climes. Then the door opened and broke my reverie. Gentlemen, you are free, the captain announced with a dramatic flourish. We are far enough from St. Petersburg that you can do no harm. You think we are spies? You think we will do no harm? You think we are spies. You see, Fogg is an Englishman and you want to make a scene. Okay, that's why. We were being kidnapped. The Tsar has a long reach, was their only reply, and I can trust no one. It is a family matter. I understand, I remain silent. You understand? You underestimate the reach of the English. That's a terrifying thing to say. I'm going to say that. I retorted hotly with unusual patriotism. The captain looked surprised, and I fancy even Monsieur Fogg looked away with some embarrassment at my outburst. I will show you, Captain Saraceno declared, and took us down to the cargo hold where 2 injured women lay in makeshift cots. I recognized Comrade Ravka immediately, though she looked much paler and small and paler, lying injured in her cot. Ravka, you know my niece? The captain asked, astonished. I saw her steal Sarah's off his Knodunki. She handed me a copy of the Communist Manifesto. In the middle of a riot. I still have it. That's my Ravka, I replied fondly. Brave as a lion, but without the sense God gave a donkey. You're helping her escape? I hope she would not be hurt. I believe I would agree. I hope she would not be hurt, I said. She was throwing firebombs and not marching towards the soldiers. Do not mistake me. I think her idealistic politics foolish, and have little love for anti-Catholic communism, but you have a duty, or she is family? You have a duty. Yes, that is so. She fixed me with a sharp look, then fetched me a chair. We sat beside her niece's bruised and battered form until dinner time, but Ravka did not stir. That's cool as hell. To my surprise, Comrade Ravka was at breakfast and called me over to her side. You are looking better, I said, lying only a little. Flatterer, Ravka laughed. She just at the stiff back woman sitting to her left. Have you met Staff Captain Matova? Staff Captain? I threw her a jaunty salute. Akhmatova cleared her throat. I am no longer a Tsarist officer, she said, mildly turning her gaze to Ravka. You should call me Daria then, Ravka murmured. I was quite forgotten in the tension that crackled between the two. They scarcely noticed when I murmured my goodbye and slipped away. Captain Starosina summoned me to a table at lunchtime. She poked at her hanging morosely. They are holding hands, she announced in dark tones. Who? I asked. In dulcet tones, feigning endurance. My sweet fool of a niece and that woman? Imperial Lackey? I supplied. You think I care about that? The captain hears. She's a Muscovite. She probably thinks she's better than all us provincials with her sophisticated attitudes. She seems to like your niece quite well. I shrugged. And why shouldn't she? My niece is every bit as good as she is. The captain bit into a herring head vengefully. I'm sure not all Muscovites. No, they seem happy together. What do you think will happen when we get to Smirnoburg, eh? Captain Saracena pinched the bridge of her nose. The nearest thing to local theatre there is a barroom brawl. They will just have to entertain themselves. I'm sure the staff sergeant will adjust. I remarked. Stranger things have happened. I can't wait to tell my sister. The captain looked a little bit more cheerful at the prospect. She's going to pickle Ravka in whale oil and feed it to the sled dogs. She began to chuckle, and was still chuckling when we tethered the whaling port of Smearenberg a few hours later. Entertain themselves in house. Man, I love this game. Oh, let's go to market so I can pause the game. Why isn't it pausing? This game is great. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm just going to the North Pole, and while I'm there, ooh, I'm gonna keep my Communist Manifesto if I can. Let's explore. The stench. Anyway, the game is paused now, so I can think. This game is great because, like, you know, going to the North Pole has this like talk about communism and all the rest of it, and the fact that there's all these little stories. I like re-meeting up with people. That's so much fun. I hope that more of the characters I've encountered will turn up later. I like how this place is at war all the time, and so everyone is like having different factions and different opinions on this world, and you can sort of interact with them as this happens. And that's a lot of fun. I like that a lot. I also really want to get to the North Pole somehow. The stench of Smearenberg was all-pervading. It mingled with the coal smog and thick plumes of steam to form a foul miasma that hung thick and grim and unaccountably oily over the settlement. I shall never be able to wash this out of my jacket. I made a production of coughing and choking, or I took a few deep breaths trying to accustom myself to the terrible odor as quickly as possible. It is Wales, a nearby fellow put in sagely in Finnish accented English. I greeted him courteously, feeling the need to maintain some semblance of civilization in this place so lacking in it. Ugh. The man pointed at several copper kettles nearby. They were set into the brick ovens, belching black smoke from their chimneys. They rendered the whale blubber there for oil and fuel. You become accustomed to the smell. I introduced myself to him, and though he shook my hand, he shrugged as he did so, as though our meeting was of little note. I'm Viti Jokinen, he said. You don't look like seal hunters or smugglers. What are you doing here? Why do you ask? I asked suspiciously, eyeing a pair of sailors brawling merrily not 2 streets away. No great reason, he replied morosely. I heard perhaps that you were geologists. Hold on. Is Viti Jokinen... Is that Kai from the Journey to the Center of the Earth? Do you often hope for geology? We are adventurers, I suggested. He merely snorted in reply. What is your purpose here? He smiled and pointed to his collar, where a copper pin gleamed metallic against his fur. I am an artificer. There is a guild outpost here? I introduced myself and my motley politely. No, that's in Vergohammer, nearby as these things go. I am here on an expedition to the North Pole as it happens, he said casually enough. Monsieur Fogg's demeanour altered entirely. You don't say, he remarked. My good fellow, let me buy you whatever it is they drink here. I waited for Monsieur Jokinen's response. But a moment later, both he and my master were gone, away down the street and plodding like rogues. Gotta make some money. I have no idea where I'm going. Like, I'm just going to the North Pole. I don't know where after that. Go to the hotel. I assume that whatever's happening is going to happen as we rest. He is an original character. Okay. Have you encountered him before? but also apparently one of the main love interests for Passepartout. Fair enough. He's just a weirdo for me. I was masterless in a cold city. I decided to visit Ravka and Daria. For a distraction, but found Ravka alone and irate. Daria has gone out, Ravka told me, to learn a trade. But that's wonderful news. What does a nice bourgeois girl like her know about a trade, I asked you. Perhaps that is why she's out learning? Oh, she's going to learn a trade and meet some horribly bitter Danish sea captain, run off and have 100 fat children and be miserable. She'll go bold. Weird. You're quite like your aunt, you know. I told her with some daring. You don't understand at all, she sighed deeply. I am happy about Passepartout. It makes me suspicious. It seems unlikely to find happiness here with someone like her for someone like me. The best things in life are unlikely, I think. I cast her an encouraging smile. I never imagined embarking on such a journey as I have taken, yet here we are. I think it's easier to throw firebombs at Sarah soldiers than to be in love. Yes, she turned away. It is worth it, mademoiselle. You should take my word for it on matters of the heart. I swept her with an exaggerated bow and added, I am a Frenchman after all. She laughed and looked a little comforted. I took my leave, a little more cheered myself. Perhaps all this talk about the pole had come to nothing. These are my thoughts at the moment my master returned. Cheeks reddened with unnatural flush. I think there's something going on between Jokinen and Fogg, maybe. Passepartout, he announced, slurring his words ever so slightly. We are going to the North Pole. I will prepare some hot water. I replied, after all, what else was there to say? Incredible. This is gonna suck. Why is it cost $700? There is neither hotel, bank, nor market. Oh no. Hold on, let's go to the market. Can I buy something warm? No. Okay. How many suitcases? Oh god, I might kill... Ugh. Oh. Ice Walker. I confess I gaped like a simpleton when Monsieur Jokinen showed us the enormous contraption that would lead the polar expedition. We call it the Ice Walker, he said, patting one of the enormous metal skis attached to the machine's underside. More of an ice skier or an ice slider and all? What a practical name. I glanced at Monsieur. What a practical name, I said faintly. Monsieur Jonkinen covered a slight smile with one graceful mittened hand. The machine was vaguely boat-shaped, with a pilot's bubble of reinforced glass at the front. A wicked-looking harpoon was mounted at the back. Thick fur covered the joints, fuel lines, and boilers to insulate them from the cold. The hull itself resembled that of a koch, used by the Pomor people for Arctic hunting. Rounded lines, an additional layer of flush skin planking, protective false keel. Has this ice walk been tested before? Who designed this marvel? It looks like a death trap. Has this ice walker been tested before? I asked. Yes, Monsieur Jokinen looked a little uncomfortable, and my heart sank a little in my chest. Not in these exact conditions, perhaps. Does it have the guild mark, at least? I asked, not caring if I sounded a touch querulous. Monsieur Jokinen nodded, and I took as much comfort from that as I possibly could. She is the result of 3 years of work and hundreds of artificers' ingenuity and sweat, Monsieur Jokinen said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. And what did you design? Is this the guild's first polar expedition? Let's ask, what did you design? I asked, taking my cue from his tone. I designed the fail-safes. His expression shuddered. Hopefully you'll never even see them. Monsieur Fogg cleared his throat behind me. Let us go aboard, Passepartout. His eyes looked overly bright. Feverish, perhaps. No, not fevered. The early signs of sun blindness. Ugh, no, not fevered. But eager. It was unsettling to see him like this. I was so used to his mask of cool indifference to the triumphs and disasters that had beset us. At your service, Monsieur Fogg. Where, my dear Passepartout? Pull trousers. Monsieur, I choose these trousers for you. Thank you, Passepartout. These will make me very comfortable. Journey. Monsieur, what is the purpose of our journey? I have made a hefty wager and I do not intend to lose. Health. How are you feeling, Monsieur? Good gracious, this is rather more exhausting than I anticipated. Very good. Uh-oh. We settled in and we heard two sharp whistles that signaled our departure. With a rumble of boilers and a crack of ice, we began our expedition into the uncharted peril of the Arctic. I could not help but wonder whether we would find the North Pole, find only our deaths, arrive in London within 40 days. Find the North Pole. Find the North Pole at long last, and perhaps even make history. I turned the whale oil lamps down low and climbed into bed, but it was a long time before I fell into sleep. Oh God. Please take care of Fogg. I do not want him to die. We stopped at the nearby bay of Virgo Hammer to add a large tethered balloon to our convoy, to be used for meteorological readings and short explorations. A lone artificer manned the small hangar that jutted up from the icy beach and glared at the ice walker. What a vulgar contraption. That surprises me for an artificer. But hopefully we can get this person to fix it if it's broken. Surprised me for an artificer, I remarked, but the man looked unsurprised by the observation. Any fool can see it's vulgar. Even an artificer could. He stuck out his hand. I am Solomon Augusta Andre. I proposed that we take my balloon all the way to the North Pole, but the council requisitioned it as mere support and ordered me to stay behind. Did you design the balloon yourself? Where would you want to go? Supporting an expedition is no minor thing. I cried. I'm sure we need all the support we can receive. We need leaders with spine and vision, Monsieur Andre corrected, and the council have shown themselves lacking in both. I'm sure Monsieur Jokinen can take care of us. That fool, he couldn't look after a rabbit. Then the doe-eyed Monsieur Jokinen himself appeared at my side and pulled me back to the icewalk with only tight-lipped looked at Monsieur Andre. Surely we should take every engineer we can, I asked, glancing cautiously at the ice walker. Too many chefs could ruin a souffle, Passepartout, Monsieur Jokinen replied. I think it attempted a French idiom, and Monsieur Andre is hardly sound. I would say even he was obsessed, Paul mad. I fear my master is as well, I remarked, but it was useless to complain. We were set up with our fateful course. Relations with Fogg has deteriorated slowly. Oh, Jesus. At breakfast, Monsieur Jokinen introduced to our fellow expeditionists. I paid attention to Raja Juho, the lead research artificer, Bogdan Mazensky, leader of the formidable Pomor hunters, or my master. Let's find out about Bogdan, who manned the harpoons. We'll be supplying provisions to we're away from land anyway, he rasped. Then we'll hunt whales, of course. Why, of course? But of course. Do you know Captain Starostina? That old cur, he slapped me on the back. She has grown soft and fat. Has she grown soft and fat? I wanted not to have that third child. She looks very well indeed, monsieur, I said repressively, though he continued to guffaw. What a boorish fellow. lights. Greedy Mushu. You, the interloper. You need to know about the North Pole. Not for me, I think. Ooh. Find out about Gastown. Is there a route from North Pole to Gastown? No idea, but I know that the collectors in Panama City pay extremely well for revolvers from Gastown. Oh, Reykjavik. Oh, North Pole to Reykjavik. Talk a lot, don't you? Halfway through the afternoon, we set up at an icy cliff, far too sheer to be saved by the Ice Walker's skis. Will we tunnel through it? Will we find another way around? Was this anticipated? Was this anticipated? I asked aloud, peering out from the thick glass window of the bridge. Nothing on the route is anticipated, Monsieur Jokanin replied. No one has ever been this way before. With that, he pulled a lever of gleaming wood. We lurched down with a mechanical hiss, and the engines hummed at a higher pitch. I'm going to lead into the love interest thing. I clutched Monsieur Jokanin for support, and he held me steady without taking his eyes from the pneumatic levers and wildly spinning dials spread out in front of him. Out of the window, I saw the mechanical skis bend and articulate. They must have had hidden joints, forming themselves into sharp claws which dug into the pack ice. Jesus. We scuttled up the ice face. There is no other word to describe it. The ice walker swung and hissed and spewed steam in great shrieking gouts, but we made it up in less than 5 minutes. Next time, Monsieur Jokanin put in jovially, buckle up. I was in the end grateful for the artificer's foresight in designing such a contraption. Now that the gut-wrenching terror had passed, it did seem quite a jolly adventure. The coast of Spitsbergen disappeared in our wake. There was no land between here and the pole, or none that had been discovered. It was entirely possible there was nothing but frozen sea and endless sky ahead. We might as well have skied it across the moon. I walked the open balcony and watched for wildlife. Spotting a few ringed seals cavorting playfully on a nearby ice floe in the water, there were dark shapes of circling winter whales. The further we moved away from land, the more alone we would be. It was quiet and still. I was quite possessed with a drifting loneliness. Beautiful in a spare, brutal sort of way. Drifting loneliness. That could not be relieved even by the sight of human faces at the sound of conversation. Behind us, the little lights of civilization, and the only unrelieved whiteness lies ahead. I was heating Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to a precise degree when I heard a long trumpet blast and the sound of many boots thumping in the corridor. I gave Monsieur Fogg a beseeching look, and he scratched his chin pointedly before tightening his lips. "Oh, very well, Passepartout," he said. "Go investigate." I followed the sound of foots to a brightly lit room at the very aft of the ship. Monsieur Mezensky was shouting commands to his group of Pomor hunters, but paused to toss a glance in my direction. "What are you doing here, civilian?" I came to join you," I announced, somewhat to my own surprise. Really? For a moment, I thought he would dismiss me and straighten my shoulders and attempted to look like a competent fellow in a mysterious crisis. Instead, Monsieur Vininsky glanced at a panel of furiously blinking lights inside. "It is too late." He pushed me aside and sealed the bulkhead behind me with a grunt. A moment later, the floor beneath my feet began to hum. Merde. Or, what is happening? What is happening? I asked plaintively, without much hope of reply. The Pomor huntsman followed me into the chair next to him and buckled me in place for what I could only describe as unnecessary viciousness. I remained silent at a pure, unbridled terror, in awareness that I was intruding. All the hunters were warmly outfitted, heavily armed, and grim-faced. The hum reached a crescendo and there was a stomach-churning wrench as the room detached from the ice walker and pitched into the air. It was a gyrocopter masquerading as a ready room. Oh my god, this is incredible. I closed my eyes and wished myself on solid ground. I leaned towards the observation windows, or we have left the ice walker behind. I leaned towards the observation windows. A slash of pale sky, a rolling ice-shrouded ocean, and that was Zettelors. There she blows, Monsieur Mazinski pointed, elbowed me in the side. Is that what you English say when you spot a whale? I am not English. Or are we going to hunt a whale? Are we going to hunt a whale? I goggled at the enormous creature visible against the churning water. That whale? Are we gonna hunt Moby Dick? One of Monsieur Mazinski's hunters shouted a phrase in Russian, and there was a scramble. A monster opened a hatch in the ceiling and clambered up to man the mounted cabin, and another shouted out the direction and the heading of the whale to the pilot. What can I do to help? I asked, gathering my courage. Nothing, Monsieur Mazinski rumbled. Now shut up and stay the hell out of the way. I could see the pilot trying to steady us in the strong wind, the spotters pressing their faces to the window, the whale thrashing its mighty tail. As it attempted to escape us, there was a hiss of a harpoon launch, a shout. I closed my eyes. Our craft shuddered and swung. The harpooner had hit home. A thick rope cable connected us to our quarry. It thrashed in pain, jerking us along with it as blood darkened the water. Each keening cry felt like a wave of ice water, and I shivered at the brutality of it. The hunters, if anything, looked grimmer than ever and tightened their buckles. Another harpoon hiss, a roar of pain, and suddenly they were not simply flung, but tumbling through the sky. I braced myself, my feet against the chair legs. I put my head between my legs, preparing for a crash landing. Mr. Mazinski was shouting commands at his team of hunters. A scream penetrated through my haze of dizziness, and I looked up in time to see one of the harpooners miss his grip and fall away. A tiny black dot against the sky and sea. His face, oh, I wish I had not seen it. His face, it burns my memory. Its ice-rimmed terror, sharp and sour as my own. I heard Monsieur Mazinski curse and try to unbuckle his belt, his eyes on the ceiling hatch. He was going to try to take the harpooner's place. I lunged for the ladder first. He was going to try to take the harpooner's place. I'm not gonna harpoon this whale. At least so I thought. Instead, he merely sealed the hatch and threw himself back into his chair. It will take an hour, perhaps more, for the creature to tire, he said gruffly. We must simply wait. How can I describe that mixture of boredom of terror? I confess I dozed off a little. Boredom and terror. Being pitched out and rattled about by a whale's death flurries. Perhaps 2 hours later, we flew back to the ice walker, dragging the enormous carcass behind us. I barely recall how I found my bed, but I found it I did, and a deep, almost dreamless sleep besides. Your character's now dependable. Incredible. Greetings, Monsieur Jayanth. Repository, it's so good to see you out. North Pole. The pole is as lively a place as we might expect. North Pole. Maybe, but collectors in San Pedro will pay extraordinary prices for buffalo hides from Gastown. But now, you're enjoying the ice walker, I hope? Fast. It's a fast machine. Speed is not everything. Dexterity, now there is a measure. Reykjavik. Is it possible to travel from the North Pole to Reykjavik? I think you're out of luck there. Honolulu? Maybe, but you can buy cotton flowers in Honolulu. You can sell for a profit in Havana. Hold on. So that's Japan. It's America. This is Hawaii. Okay. You great-faced idiot, Monsieur Mazinski shouted as I blinked my eyes open. So it was not a nightmare? I asked plaintively. Next time, civilian, leave the hunting to the hunters, he snarled, his cheeks purpling. You could have killed us all. Oui, monsieur. I held her deep into the covers, feeling quite chastised. Monsieur Mazinski cursed a filthy string, then he shook my hand. Don't get any ideas, he added before sweeping out of the room. I still think you're an idiot. I fought the tiredness and looked around. I thought I saw my master's still drawn face, but I was sound asleep before I could even call out. The ice walker, I noted, was moving once more. I'm gonna stop tending him because I feel like he's fine. I think I've been helping him enough that he's actually avoiding most of the damage. A set of mechanical pincers emerged from the back of the ice walker. It grabbed the whale's carcass from the water and pulled it into its gaping maw. The artificers told me that it would be processed for fuel on our journey ever north. I went down to observe more closely. I did not wish to subject myself to the gruesome sights. I'm kind of curious about like checking out this whale and like him being curious about that sort of thing. But I also saw a man die before, so I'll do that. I did not wish to subject myself to the gruesome sights and sounds that would no doubt ensued, and so I took myself off to the meteorological labs in the belly of the ship for the day. Madame Juho took one look at my face and laughed derisively. No stomach for the flensing, eh? I made a piteous face, and she laughed again, but she did not throw me out. You're most diverting, my good man. Monsieur Fogg had managed to find himself a whist partner from among the artificer's ranks. He was an arcane talent of his, and one I regarded with great suspicion. No good can come of my master being friendly. The fellow in question was a youth of barely 20, handsome enough, in a pallid-eyed sort of mode, and apparently some sort of meteorological prodigy. I wished him joy of partnering with my master, and took myself off for a turn about the decks, and later a little drink at the illicit sill in the cargo hold. There you are, Passepartout. Monsieur Jokin flashed me a bright smile. Would you like to come up to the balloon with me this afternoon? I need some meteorological readings, and we can make a picnic of it. I agreed fervently, eager to escape the monotony, rather glad of his company. An hour later, we were climbing the swinging rope ladder up to the tethered balloon. I shivered and resisted the urge to look down. We were a long way up. Monsieur Jokin pulled himself into the gondola and extended a hand. I let him help me up, but managed to catch my knee on the edge of his long coat and tumble us together in a heap. Oh, whoops. It seems I have fallen for you, monsieur. I jested, trying to catch my breath. He laughed as we picked ourselves up and cast me a look under his lashes. Call me Vitty, eh? Surely we know each other that well by now. I excused myself to cast off and would set up the instruments. In the meantime, I set out with a lunch of whale meat and oatmeal. Ooh. As prettily as I could, given the circumstances, and even managed to scrounge up a little tallow candle, a touch of the romantic. Then I went up to the observation deck and joined Vitty at the railing. The ice walker was still visible, a hulking shape, belching dark smoke into a misty white. We were suspended in an endless sky in a moment of calmness. Thank you, I murmured quietly. Vitty cast me an almost shy smile, and we ducked back down into the warmth from an amiable lunch. Today's the Ice Walker's pilot threw a cloudberry pie at the chef navigator's face at lunch. An unconscionable waste of good pie, as well as necessary resources. The cloudberries were rationed out daily amongst the expeditioners to prevent scurvy, given our lack of exposure to sunlight. I eavesdropped upon their argument shamelessly. I kept my head down. The crux of the matter seemed to be that we were a few degrees off course, and they each blamed each other. We have a course? I muttered loudly enough to catch their attention. The chief navigator turned her burning gaze towards me. You think we just look at a count bus and shout, North Tally-ho? Yes? I said, flinching a little at the way her hands curled to fist by her side. The chief navigator threw a set of charts to the pilot. Read them. Double check if you like. I gave you the corrected reading. And I followed your instructions perfectly. The pilot let the papers fall to the floor. Then how did we end up off course? The navigator crossed her arms. Answer me that. Perhaps it was sabotage. There was a horrible silence after my suggestion, and I resisted the urge to shuffle my feet. We are the only ones here, the pilot said slowly. You think one of us did it? Betrayal usually comes from within. Let's not point fingers, the chief navigator declared, extending her hand in a gesture of reconciliation, and the pilot shook it. Let us keep our wits about us, she added, and move forward. I just swung the chair like in that meme. I'm so concerned that as soon as we reach the end of this voyage, like Passepartout is just gonna get like 70 like hearts taken away from him, and so he's just gonna die. Ooh. Today I investigated our unplanned detour. I sought out Monsieur Jokinen. I sat with Monsieur Fogg as he read an old journal. I'm gonna check out our unplanned detour. But learned little of any value. The navigational charts were not guarded or locked away, and the various instruments used for the purpose so delicate and complex that any one of us could easily malfunction. I bribed an apprentice navigator to keep his eye out for anything unusual, trying to shake the feeling that I had just thrown my money down a lightless echoing well. An inconsequential sort of day. One of the artificers accidentally released a pack of spider-like automatons. Undercooked oversalted the porridge. I dreamed of Arctic terns. Tell me about the spider-like automatons. And the entire lower deck had to be evacuated. Cool. I dreamed of Arctic terns flying in esoteric formations, their wings flapping to a rhythm I could not decipher. What a pleasure would have been to ascribe meaning to these signs, but I fear they meant nothing at all. Where's your wishmaster? Passepartout? Whiskey. Do you have whiskey? Excellent idea. Pool trousers? I'll increase your wool trousers for you. Excellent, man. That would be most pleasing. How are you finding our progress? The ice goes on forever. We cross another line of longitude each day. Very good. Today, I paid a visit to the cook, poked my head into the navigation room. Let's speak with the cook. Monsieur Backer, who is in a foul mood. Are you here to complain about the salty porridge? He cast a grim look at my already quivering apprentice. Get in line. I like my porridge salty. I told him reassuringly, his expression relaxed. He fetched me a piece of whale meat cured with cloudberries, a new recipe he was experimenting with. I assured him it was wonderful, and ate every last mouthful in front of him to prove my point. Do not say I am not committed to my endeavors, however trifling. Your relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. Converse. Greetings, Monsieur Jokinen. Passepartout, it's good to see you. I'm very interested in North Pole. We expect the Aurora Borealis to be truly magnificent further north. Gastown. Through from North Pole to Gastown? I doubt. Tell me, are you enjoying your explanation? Fascinating. Is a world truly filled with wonder, is it not? I need to know about the North Pole. That seems terribly unlikely. Honolulu? Seems unlikely to me. Omsk? I don't know how to get out of here. Disaster has struck. So cold, the ice walker has been destroyed. We're stranded? Oh no. On an ice floe in the bitterest cold I have ever experienced, I have only a few moments to scribble this entry, so I will keep it to the most important of facts. We have little hope of rescue and feel surprised. It seems certain we will die here. Only, not yet. There is too much to do. Converse. May you service, Monsieur Fogg. I have good, man. I am not well. Whiskey. Excellent idea. Wool trousers. Wool shirts. 36. I've gained a little warmth with my fingers and by putting them in to come back to the snow, enough to write. On the ice walker, nobody knows what happened. Disaster struck in the middle of the night. I could not help but remember Monsieur André's bitterness, and wonder if that man had placed a bomb under our craft and set us towards our death. But does it matter why? I could not care less. My only care is how we might go on. What of Viti Shokinen's fail-safes? They activated, saving us. A series of pneumatic escape cubes that started us, and pieces of equipment, crates, suitcases, all hurling as far from the sinking wreck as possible. He'd done his best, and now was grateful for that. But Viti seemed to feel responsible for our situation, and was lapsed into breathing silences as he looks around our cobbled-together camp and our ever-dwindling stock of food. I can write no more. Too cold. Oh, fuck. I'm not acknowledging how unwell Fogg is. Madame Juho glared up into the sky and muttered, "Buggered this," strapped on her snow ships, and began walking out into the whiteness. I called after her, but she did not look back. I looked around at the thinned, ice-rimmed faces of the other survivors and wondered how long it would be before another one of us gave up. Simply gave up and walked out into the snow. I swore it would not be me, and held that promise close to my chest, and fooled myself that it warned me. I looked around, down at my master's too pale and shivering form, and tried desperately to think how I could help him. I approached the cook for supplies, keenly aware that I was hardly the first to do so. Monsieur Backer saw something in my face that caused him to hand me a day's ration of cured whale, an unexpected, even unbelievable bounty. I had to blink away tears. I'm not going to ask if there's more, because that's going to be a no. I had to blink away tears, and he very kindly pretended he did not see them. I fed each strip to my master carefully, reverently, watching his colour slowly return as he chewed. The sky was ablaze when I awoke, a spectacular streams of emerald green and bruised purple and flushed pink. The Aurora Borealis, nearby out of whispered in awe. It is magnificent. In this part of the world, located entirely within your kitchen. Passepartout was an acrobat, you know? Passepartout, he was an acrobat, you know. Doesn't need the trivial comforts of warm clothing and whiskey. What's a little Arctic freezer for a man of his indomitable spirit? I like him so much. I like that he doesn't have a health bar. It's very sweet. It seemed to me as though the sky itself was giving us hope. Painted coruscanting colours across the horizon, it seemed that the prospect of death made me sentimental. Once more I sought to aid my master. I asked Monsieur Mazinski to help me, and he offered me a thick fur from the poor bags. Keep Fogg warm, he said roughly. It will help. Thank you. I whispered, thank you. He gave me a short nod and stumbled back to our makeshift camp to tend my master. I fear I cannot feel my fingers. Eesh. I no longer truly remember what it's like to be warm. Perhaps I have never been so. The memories seem so fragile. They spin away like dust, like snow. There has only ever been this. The cold that has not enough mercy to be numb, the wind that howls like a pack of wolves in the hunt. While I still had strength, I was determined to provide succor to Monsieur Fogg. The apprentice navigator I had bribed beckoned me closer. Possessing a vial of thick tonic into my hands. It will help your master heal, he said. Take it. Why? I dared not reach out. Why help me? He hesitated. I couldn't find anything out for you, did I? Consider it repayment. It seemed kindness was to be found, even at the edge of the world, past the point of human endurance. I like this. I like that it's rewarding me for seeking people out and interacting with people, and that is how I'm getting helped in this moment. Like if I just like sat in my cabin and was just quiet, I wouldn't be rewarded in this way, which is very nice. Well, now this journey is proving more tiring than I expected. I fear this will be my last night. You're at 75. Come on. I thought of Maman today. Her strength that she picked me up. Who's Maman? Her smile in the flickering lamplight. As she tucked me into bed, the brush of her lips against my temple. I wondered what she would do to test out into the stark and barren landscapes. Would she grind her fists into her eyes to stop this tear? Would she cover up the sunlight with her bare hands? Maman, if by some strange wild chance you should come to read this, tell any other children you meet to avoid valeting. It is, I feel, entirely to blame for this sorry end of mine. Think of me with love as I am thinking of you in this endless Arctic night. This is such an interesting turn for this game. Monsieur Fogg nearly lost 3 toes to frostbite. I have not been careful enough. I was not conscientious enough. The medic caught it in time and he will lose them. As for his life, well, let us instead be thankful for his toes. Pass the toe, so you can think of a couple below part. Monsieur Fogg and I have been sleeping curled up against each other since the disaster. I tried desperately to press some warmth into his body. I am so afraid for him. Fogg is such a frail man all throughout this game. Yeah. The barriers of propriety are strong, very nearly until death. But I no longer dare spit lies into the face of death. He is my true friend. And more than a master, I would follow him into the hell's very jaws, and indeed I have. Hell has no fire, hell is cold. If we survive, I will tear these pages out. I will burn them and burn these thoughts from my mind. I will be satisfied only to see him raise his left eyebrow and comment upon the temperature of the sea. I am determined to aid Monsieur Fogg. We have some alcohol in our possession. I brought out the whiskey and offered him a slug. The liquid trickled beneath his cracked lips and made him cough darkly, but it seemed to bring a little colour to his cheeks. Have some yourself, he whispered, his voice a mere quaver. I toasted him there on the ice, and we smiled thinly, perhaps enjoying a little of my health in the absence of his own as I savoured the whiskey. Jesus. What are we going to do when we get to the North Pole? There's a strange black streak across the horizon. I can hear the others murmur. An airship, but I do not believe them. I cannot. A collective hallucination from people driven beyond hope, beyond reason, beyond bearing. I do not truly believe until I see Madame Giroux standing on the deck. Need a ride? She shouts, her voice familiar and mocking, and I turn to Monsieur Fogg and smile. We are saved. Toes. Hey! What a fun journey we had. So, to say what happened then. The injured, Monsieur Fogg included, were whisked away by the medics. We were wrapped in blankets and with great efficiency and given steaming cups of broth. Madame Juho stood with an older man. I closed myself to everything. In a blue sami-gatki and a reindeer fur coat. This silhouette's framed by the observation windows. How did you find this airship? I asked. The man made a disgusted sound. If Regia had done her duty correctly, you would not be here. Duty? What duty? I looked between them, feeling a sense of unease. I was supposed to make sure the expedition did not make it to the North Pole, Madame Juho responded evenly, bringing her a copper lily brooch. I adjusted the instrument to push herself course, but it had nothing to do with the wreck. Why should I believe you? You're alive, aren't you? All which is moot, Juho, the man interjected, as you have failed, resoundingly. I could not let them die out there, she replied, sounding uncharacteristically chastened. And who are you to say that? I demanded. Passepartout, this is my father, Ivo Juho, semi-representative to the Council of Circumpolar Northern Peoples. Madame Juho looked out the window and took a breath. We have arrived. I looked out the window. Arrived where? I asked. It was merely pointed. A city rose up of the pale mist and ice, an alchemical dream of glass and copper and bone. Interconnected tents of reindeer skin. Here and there, impossibly large tangles of trees and scrubs grew. And carved whale bones lined snow-packed streets. Frozen rivers were arched with delicate bridges of copper and zinc. Here and there, impossibly large trees and scrubs grew under domes of glittering ice-rimmed glass. The heart of the city, a vast towering structure of steam boilers and copper pipes. Welcome to the North Pole, Madame Juho said, subdued, to the sacred city of Kaosutuk. Incredible. Just incredible. What a scene. Explore immediately. This then is the North Pole. It's the city with caves, with streets of carved ice, filled with a mixture of Arctic peoples, many Sami, but also Siberian Nets, tattooed Yupiks and Netsiliks, Alaskan Inupiats, and even some Buryats and Khanty. We disembarked in hobbling procession, led by Masu Juho. People watched us as we passed, suspicion and fear in their faces. I smiled and nodded assiduously. Welcome to Frostpunk. I hope not. From what I've heard of Frostpunk, it's fucking miserable. Soon enough, a few enterprising... I smiled and nodded assiduously, hoping to reassure. Soon enough, a few enterprising Nanette children slipped their parents' grips and walked alongside us, chattering. It is not personal. Madame Juho put a hand on my elbow. You are the first outsiders to set foot here since the city's founding. The first? How many others have you left to die? The first? I exclaimed. Just so. I had to beg my father to let you come. I heard the bitterness of old hurts. And concealed resentments in her voice. It seemed her relationship with her people, her family, was not so simple as to be easily encompassed under the word duty. Ugh. What will happen to us? Madame Juho's expression was unreadable. We will tend to the injured and let you rest. Tomorrow, most likely, you'll be called to the council. For judgment? I asked half-jokingly. At least, that was what I told myself. She only set her mouth into a thin line and led us silently to a low-roofed tent hung with carved walrus tusk and polished antlers, no doubt hastily created for our arrival. No matter, at least we were alive. Sleep. Oh, Jesus. I claimed a bed heaped with furs and blankets, and after being chased by from Monsieur's bedside by a sharp-tongued doctor, I began to scour the city for some means of onward transport. But there were no roads, no rails, no airship docks. This was a place happy to be disconnected, self-reliant. Food was grown in heated chambers, and waste was compacted and sunk through the holes in the ice. Surely our long journey would not end here, as citizens of a strange new place. I went to ask... I tried bribing a local, but found they were reluctant to talk to me at all. It seemed a foreigner, especially a Frenchman, was an unsettling sight as a three-headed cow in the city. I returned to my master in something of a black funk, but he only shivered and did not attempt to criticize me at all. The council met against the towering steam boilers in the heart of the city, both literal and figurative. 15 men and women sat in simple chairs of sinew and fur, drawing their authority from the technological marvel which they commanded. The survivors of the expedition were gathered, and I saw familiar faces among them. The chief engineer and the pilot jostling, Monsieur Mazinski and his Pommel hunters glaring and gaping in equal measures. I stood with them. It was no good practice to stand against the Artificers Guild, and I hoped some of their immunity would extend to my person and my masters. Monsieur Juho stood and silence rippled out. He spoke a commanding sentences. Was that Turkish? The Artificers nodded, apparently conversant in their tongue. I do not understand, I said aloud, and Madame Juho elbowed me sharply. Pay attention, she hissed. Can you interpret for me? I hissed back. Turkish, really? Madame translated the councillor's word. Kausituk was founded for one purpose, for the circumpolar peoples to learn and develop the technologies of steam and oil and automata, to make them their own before they destroy our homes, our culture, our way of life. A grand plan, technology brings change, not destruction. You could have asked the guild for help. You can't ask the guild for help, you don't trust them. Technology brings change, not destruction. No. A grand plan. I murmured admiring, a clever plan. We have seen what has happened to the Native Americans, to the First Peoples, to the Kazakhs and the Buryats. Madame's face was still a carved stone, and it was clear she spoke her own words rather than the councillors. We will not let that happen to us. The council erupted in an argument, stealing whatever response I thought to give. What are they arguing about? I demanded. The council wants to stay isolated and keep all of you prisoners. Madame Juho cast me a look of pinched sympathy. The shamans are voting with them for a change. But the progressives recently discovered more oil and natural gas in the Barents Sea and are petitioning for a right to hire outside drilling expertise. So they're voting against isolation. But the international unionists have been looking for an excuse to start throwing their weight around. International unionists? I asked faintly. Oh yes, they want a nation of circumcircular peoples, tying together any lands that fall within the Arctic Circle. Madame Juho smiled. We are more Arctic than we are Russian, or Finnish, or Lapland, are we not? What does a Muscovite truly know of winter? Do you support them? If they succeed, then we will be at war with half the world, and I am too practical to court war. Her eyes gleamed, for now anyway. There was a sudden hubbub and a loud agreement. I heard some of the expeditioners grasp, and tremulous smiles on a few faces. I allowed myself a moment of help. What do the councillors say? What do the councillors say? Bots again. Want to be famous? Buy followers and viewers. No. Delete message. Delete. Block. Pot. Oh Jesus. Spam. They posted spam links. And ban user. Ban. What do the councillors say? I demanded. Madame Juho's expression was blank. Passepartout, I'm so sad. They intend to keep us? You'll be our guest until the council is ready to announce itself to the world. I demanded the chance to plead our case. For a moment, Madame Juho considered my words, then shook her head. I've seen your tongue in action, Passepartout, she declared coldly. I doubt you might convince the council to do something against its interests. I will not help you. Not again. A set of guards began herding us back to our lodgings, and I threw myself on the pallet. This, it seemed, would be the end of our great adventure. This is interesting. I don't know where it's going to go. I woke in the semi-dark to find my master shaking my shoulder. Monsieur Fogg, I exclaimed. I placed a finger to his lips, and he placed a finger to his lips, and at his unspoken command, I quickly gathered up our bags and followed him out the ice-packed streets. "We are not staying here, Passepartout," he told me, and then pointed to a pair of dark airships to the west of the city. "We have a wager to win, and this is our way out." "Should we sneak aboard, monsieur? Should we commandeer the vessel?" "Should we sneak aboard, monsieur?" I asked quietly. "We will remain hidden until we are away from the Casatook, and then," he paused delicately, we adjust our plans to emergent circumstances." I said sagely. "We'll improvise." "Quite so," he replied readily enough. "Which airship should we aim for?" I scrutinized them both. There was nothing to tell them apart. "The one to the left, the one to the right." "Right." "The one to the right," I said, and felt immeasurably better for having made a decision, however arbitrary. "Well then, Monsieur Fogg," said Monsieur Fogg, "let us depart." Oh, Jesus. Winnipeg. Embark. Luggage rack has space for 10 suitcases, far more than we need. Cool. You go reclaim your sense of agency, Passepartout. I'm cool with how that was. That was amazing, just reading that and seeing how things are going. Like, if the game just ended there, that would be incredible. That'd be a really interesting way of just, like, having this thing end. Monsieur Fogg and I devised a simple plan to sneak aboard the airship. We wedged ourselves into a pair of supply crates, or we pulled fur hoods down and joined the massive crew. I played a video game recently, or I watched a friend of mine play a video game recently that was basically about stowaways, and that didn't end well. So I'm gonna join the massive crew. Once inside, I found us both a warm, if cramped, hiding place near the boiler rooms. I breathed a sigh of relief as we felt the airship loose its tethers and take to the skies, traveling once more. Converse. Where's your wish, master? Passepartout, you have my undivided attention. Whiskey. Excellent idea. Wool trousers. Excellent, Passepartout, you make me very comfortable. Journey. Day 50, I believe. We must keep going. We were woken by a series of loud raps against the door of our hiding place. "Please come out," a voice called. "We know you're there." I attempted to mimic the noises of a growling river joint. Perhaps it's just this chamber was sealed for our sound mechanical reasons. But a voice from outside merely became alarmed. "Are you ill?" it demanded. "Don't worry, you are safe with us." Monsieur Fogg took matters into his own hands and opened the door. A middle-aged Nanette's woman stood at the head of a small troop of guards. "I'm Captain Anne Van Nuito," the woman grinned, her dark eyes glinting. "You two are aboard my beautiful ship." Entirely by accident, I announced, deciding mendacity to be the better part of valor. "Are we indeed aboard an airship? What a remarkable and remarkably unforeseen turn of events. We are most inconvenienced." Captain Van Nuito looked bemused. "How awful for you." I summoned all my courage. Where, pray, is our destination?" The captain cleared her throat. "We are heading to Winnipeg in Canada." "I see no need to alter a course, do you?" "Indeed not, Captain," I replied heartily, a grin spreading across my fine moustache. "Well then," the captain continued brusquely, let's get you a proper cabin and a good meal. It's roast seal tonight. It cooks an absolute marvel with seal." That night I remembered to adjust the pocket I remember to adjust the pocket watch as we had crossed the international date line and gained ourselves a day. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. Let's get you up to 100. The captain brought out a bottle of acrid spirits our second night aboard and handed it around. I took a sip and felt my throat catch fire. I felt as though my head had been shattered and hastily reconstituted. My tongue was entirely blessedly numb. I glared at the captain in mute accusation. Strong stuff. The Nanette's people are one of my favorite playing Crusader Kings. That would be incredible. I've got Crusader Kings on Game Pass. I haven't sat down and played it yet. I've seen like a Let's Play or two. Probably gotta go and check that one out. What are they like? The Nets people in that game. Strong stuff. I managed to cough out to scattered applause and hoots. So I asked the captain after the atmosphere was loosened a little by drinking camaraderie. Why are you headed to Canada? We sell technologies to the First Peoples in exchange for news and gossip, she replied easily. The council is cautious, but they understand the value of accurate information. Use the First People as spies? You use the word ally rather than spy. The captain steepled her fingers. It sounds more wholesome to say ally. A brawl broke out between two of the air crew, and the captain excused herself to thump the perpetrators' heads together. The outline of the coast of Hudson Bay loomed grey and barren through the observation windows. We are here already? I exclaimed. One of our navigators preened. Our ships are faster than the air, he boasted, cracking his knuckles. Not that the rest of the world knows anything of it. We tethered smoothly and disembarked into the sweet, blessed land. Good luck, Passepartout, Captain Benito called in parting. Where the hell is Winnipeg? Duluth! So I wanted to go to Gastown, which is all the way over here. Market. Wait, hold on a second. Pacific. Atlantic, Pacific. Okay, we're still going to the Pacific. Okay, let's figure out our routes. I don't have any routes, so let's explore. Oh, thank God. It all began when my master and I turned a street corner in Winnipeg and found ourselves directly in the path of a galloping horse with no rider to control it. I prepared to grab the reins as it passed. Halcyon says in regards to the Nanette people, they have cool names, but they are also pre-feudal pagans with only other pre-feudal pagans around, so it's a lot of prestige-oriented play. Are you going to the Pacific? Halcyon says. I guess. I'm in Winnipeg. I'm gonna steal a horse. I prepared to grab the reins as it passed. No doubt the horse had merely been frightened and would respond to the calming touch. As the stallion grew closer, I could see his eyes rolling wildly, lips pulled back to displaying yellowing teeth and foam dripping from the bridle. I bared my own teeth in response, squaring my shoulders. I flexed my hands and snatched for the reins, pulling them as sharply as leather cut into my hands. The horse barely registered the motion. Indeed, it began to drag me down the street. I swung myself onto the horse's back. A move worthy of a Parisian acrobat. The stallion seemed to shudder all over. It had no doubt dispatched its previous owner in the same gruesome fashion, and was looking to similarly be rid of me. I threw myself on the horse before I could do the same for me, deciding that discretion was very much the better part of valor. I limped back to my master, shamefaced. What I had been thinking, it to wrangle such a savage beast. Well, Monsieur, remarked Monsieur Fogg dryly, that was dramatic. I was still too shaken to respond. Brings up the acrobat part. Let's take a drink. Oh god, that's very funny. I was still too shaken to respond, so merely nodded and perhaps gulped a little. But we were not done yet. Moments later, the ground began to shake. A cloud of dust and clatter of hooves resolved into a posse of red-coated mounted police. Beg your pardon, gentlemen. The fellow in the lead tipped his hat to us, a twinkle in his clear blue eyes. You haven't by chance seen a runaway horse go past? That was no horse, but a beast from hell. I shot back caustically. I pointed in a vague direction. Surely you can follow the trail of bodies. The red-coated mountie looked me up and down before leaning over in his saddle and offering me his hand. Staff Sergeant James McClord at your service. And you are? Going around the world, I said reflexively, then coughed. That is to say, my master and I are going around the world. McClord laughed. Are you indeed? Well, how about that? I told him that we were planning to make our way to America and across the Atlantic. By London by any means to hand. Am I missing? Oh, you're right. Are you going to the Pacific? Okay. I was trying to picture where Europe and America was. And I was wrong. Fuck. Okay. To make our way by London by any means to hand. Well, here's some local knowledge for you, he offered. There's a little gnome airship hangar in Ivujivik. Might be worth heading in that direction. We parted away soon after. The staff sergeant had a horse to chase after, and as always, my master and I had a journey to plan. I want to go to Duluth because that appeared in a Fargo show. Let's go to Ben and figure this out. Before retiring, I turned to Monsieur Fogg. I went out to explore a little. Only to have my pocket most rudely picked. I could not see the culprit, but my elastic wallet saved the day. Haha! Knew that was worth keeping. Okay. Let's go to the shops. Let's sell some stuff. Alright, I want to see these fur boots again. Nothing is making any money. Depart. Let's go. Cargo. Negotiate. Continue. Damn it. Shit. buy this. This evening jacket has helped us a lot. Also, let's find out how. 4 bags. Okay. Hotel? We took a room and settled in, and I spent a few hours polishing shoes in the lobby. Earning £66 in fees and tips. Your funds have gone up somewhat. Good. Depart. Let's go to Duluth. Fuck. Go. The train from Winnipeg to Chicago was a dented and ponderous thing made of blackened iron. It looked monstrous, dependable, strangely sad. Strangely sad. I thought. There was something melancholy in the unforgiving angles of its construction, a thread of loneliness in the shrill call of its steam whistle. It was probably tiredness making me fanciful. Oops. Terrorist outrage strikes Rome's. Zouave blamed. Cool. Go Zouave. I encountered a Czech construction worker from Chicago with whom I fell into conversation to find he was working on building the world's very first skyscraper in Chicago. 10 stories high with a frame of structural steel and completely fireproof, he boasted. Is it safe to build so high? I boggled. Feeling a little queasy, the construction worker laughed off my concerns. You mark my words, we'll be building stratosphere scrapers next. 10 stories will seem like nothing at all. I smiled at his enthusiasm, pleased to have met a man who made history with his own 2 hands. A thrilling 10 stories. I love it. Let me just pop off into Duluth and meet people there. There was some standing about to be done as the line changes northern reaches to its southern jaunt. This occurred near the town of Duluth, the far western point of an enormous lake, which I gazed out across as we waited for the couplings to be sorted out. Surely a boat across such an expanse could take us half the way to London. Can we not sail? I asked my master, but he shook his head. Ice, he replied, and would say no more about it. Oof. Housing says, I'm almost sure there were taller structures by this time. I know that, like, I remember hearing in school, which I don't think is entirely true. I don't, trust it entirely. That the pyramids were the tallest structures until the Eiffel Tower was built. And the Eiffel Tower, I think, was built by now. This is 1874. I'm gonna Google it. It will not be built yet, but there might be. I'm like as the amount of research this game must have taken to do, just to not only kind of get information about each individual place, but just think about which fiction kind of interacted with this. That I'm if they got the 10-story thing wrong, I'm okay with it. But yeah. I see reply, we would not say any more about it. Incredible. Greeting, Monsieur Bolislav. Greeting, Passepartout. Greeting, conversation. You know about Chicago. They say about the people of Chicago moving their houses around on steamrollers. Chicago to Atlanta. Can you travel from Chicago to Atlanta? Do be quiet. Chicago to Washington. Now you listen to me. Some buyers will pay well for evening jackets from Washington. Fair enough. At luncheon, a bluesy blonde-haired doctor took several of the passengers to task for failing to wash their hands before taking their meal. Matters of hygiene are absolutely vital, she admonished. I meekly washed my own hands, and who are you to lecture so? I added my voice to hers, citing an article I had read about the spread of disease through lack of hand washing. She cast me a quick, approving look and introduced herself as Dr. Lydia Berglund from the Chicago Board of Public Health. Any naysayers quickly fell in line at that pronouncement, and the normal proceedings at luncheon gradually recommenced. Dr. Berglund proved, rather surprisingly, an amiable, though enough conversationalist. To tell you the truth, Passepartout, she confided, what I really do for the Board of Public Health is design parks. What do parks have to do with health? Parks are the lungs of the city, Dr. Berglund shone as with the intensity of a zealot. That's what my mentor, the great Dr. Rausch, says. We are building parks across the city with toilets and sanitation, closing down cemeteries full of festering corpses, and making them places of health and greenery and community. I know what this is. This is that. Oh god. I forget what this is called, but there was a movement at this time to basically, you know, fix the quote unquote slums or something with this sort of thing. Let's see what she says. Very admirable indeed, I remarked, which rather encouraged me to tell her about the latest park to be renovated somewhat microscopic detail. Monsieur Fogg was quite impressed when I relayed the conversation to him, or perhaps he was surprised expressing a yawn. I found it quite impossible to tell. The relationship with Fogg has strengthened slightly. I forget what this is. There was. This is a bad movement, though. I'm too tired to think about what it was, but this is a thing. I'm getting rid of this shit. I'm not going to aggro. Where am I going? Gonna bring the manifesto home? 100%. Let's go to Atlanta. Walking the streets of Chicago, it quickly became apparent that this was a city in a state of some flux, in every way imaginable, from the wide variance of its diverse populace, the strong winds blowing down the wide streets, the sheer quantity of train lines. The wide variance of its diverse populace, who spoke in voices that hailed from Ireland, Sweden, and Austro-Hungary, to the arrangements of the city blocks themselves, for the blocks, I discovered, were in motion. Walking the busy streets, I was forced to stop more than once to make way for a family home set on rollers, making its way rapidly down the street towards me, moving like some gigantic snail. While its occupants calmly ate their dinner at the windows as we went, a sign popped up on the veranda read, J.S. McIntyre, Esquire. House movers. The man on the sidewalk beside me cursed under his breath. They act like they're in the road, he muttered. Surely it's hard for them to stop, I observed. Oh no, it's easy for them to stop, he rejoined. They simply need to get where they're going and then plant themselves down rather than cruising around the streets like this. I gulped. Do they ever strike people? Only drunks, he replied coldly. No, not like one of them can creep up on you unexpected. I suppose not. Twas because the mayor wanted the city to be made of stone, so they fitted rollers into wooden houses to move them out of the way. But you can't just move city folk around like cattle. They got the taste for it, see. People enjoy sunrise on the lakeshore, then they go browsing in the shops, and then they go out of the city for the night, all from their living rooms. I myself have travelled too much, I remarked, and would enjoy staying put. Or maybe you would. You haven't seen what it's like out of the centre. It's like a swamp out there. Should never build a city out there at all, if you ask me, and no one did, of course. With that, he slumped away across the road. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, in a coffee house sometime later, only to find that the city was not tired of toying with me yet. The establishment, which had normally been positioned where I left it, now required a ladder to enter, having been raised several feet into the air by a team of men with heavy jack screws. They were clearly operating outside the law. There was no foreman and no cordon to stop children and curious onlookers clambering under the elevated building. Quite clearly, these men had slipped their jackets on the foundations in order to extract a fee from the proprietor to lower it again. One poked me hard in the chest. "You've just run into Chicago's most notorious work gang," he declared. "We run this town." Are you going to move this building?" I asked. "Nope," the man replied. "We're going to jack it up another 6 inches for every 10 minutes this miser here doesn't pay his rent." The last words were directed upwards to the open window, when he turned back to me. "And if you want to go inside, $5. I gave the man £3. Without much thought, leaving a little puzzled how best to have the money changed, since the bank had recently disappeared down the main street in the direction of the lake. Your funds have gone down a touch. Let's go to Atlanta. Oh my god, I am feeling kind of tired. I've been doing this for about 3 hours. I know there's not much left, but I feel I took the scenic route so far. So when we get to Atlanta, I'll probably give it a break. Maybe just have a short stream next time. My master paced the floor of the Chicago station ticket hall in a state I could only describe as barely concealed fury, as we attempted to work out what train we were supposed to be getting onto. They have, he remarked to me, with somewhat less than his usual cool, made something of a conundrum of their train system. What is the problem, monsieur?" I asked, somewhat amused by the annoyance. "The station has a rather remarkable number of platforms," he replied, "with very little instruction for the casual traveller as to which the train might be departing from." While he cogitated, I stopped a passing porter and inquired if he could aid us. "Of course I can, sir," the man replied cheerfully. "Platform 12 for Atlanta, you'd better hurry." I thanked him, then dragged my master away from the timetable board, where we caught the train with mere seconds to spare. Oh no. Are we talking to like a Doctor Who? "Greeting, monsieur." "Yes, young man?" "Atlanta. I'm very interested in Atlanta." "Atlanta was burned down in a fire towards the end of the war. It has not yet recovered." Atlanta, New Orleans? Can you travel from Atlanta to New Orleans? Maybe, but the quickest way from Atlanta from here is through Havana. Atlanta, Dakar? Let's probably go from Atlanta to Dakar. Thank you, I've enjoyed our chat. Fair enough. We headed away from Chicago and into the wild wilderness of America. Endless meadows stretched away in all directions, broken only by the dense patches of forest. Once I saw a lumbering shadow, almost certainly a bear, and I looked away quickly. Almost certainly a bear, and I gripped my seat with white knuckles until we were several miles further along. I have, as I may have mentioned, a particular fear of bears. Around the middle of the day, we passed a well-tilled area set with triangular cloth houses. I looked with some interest. It seemed the most uncomfortable place to my eye. I looked with some interest, seeing a few people moving about the village. A child waved at the train as it passed, but their mother quickly snatched their hand down. Then, in a flash, they were gone, eased by the movement of the train. The second day of the tracks was most unremarkable. I passed the time in conversation, trying to find options for our next journey, discovering from a somewhat energetic Irish clerk the train from New Orleans up to New York is the fastest on the continent. Finally, we arrived in Atlanta. Cool. Alright. That'll be me. I'm very tired. It has been 3 hours and 21 minutes since I started. We went to the North Pole. We went to Venice. We went to... Where else did we go? St. Petersburg. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I enjoyed this a lot. Little quiet stream, just me and Halcyon hanging out. Yeah, I'll probably pick up next little while. Not really sure when I'm going to stream next, but I'll jump over to that. And yeah, I'll probably so this one is going to go up on YouTube if you want to check it out later. I have a whole bunch of stuff on my YouTube. Just search for Minor Lenahan or look on the thing on my Twitter. Follow me on I meant Twitch. You can find my links on Twitch and Twitter and so forth. Follow me there, and yeah, thanks for hanging out. We will see how this journey goes. We didn't die, which is good, but yeah, a lot of fun. All right, goodbye, everyone. Fare thee well. Ugh.